porque es mi debut en RAW. Quiero dedicársela a mi papá, Abismo Negro, que me ve desde el cielo, que siempre me está cuidando. Y por qué no también a mi hijo, que está por nacer. Vengo representando a AAA, a una de las mejores marcas del mundo de lucha libre. Y también vengo representando a muchos mexicanos que quieren ver cómo un mexicano porta el campeonato mundial pesado. Así es. Este lunes en Monday Night RAW vamos a romperla con todo en contra de Fénix. Y posteriormente, Roman Reigns. Voy por ti, porque recuerda que yo soy el fiscal. Y después de mí, la oscuridad total.
Yeah, you lost. Well, fuck yourself.
Yeah. Next time you want to come to my house, you call me and you ask for permission. Oh, you're serious? This is my house, 100%. 100%. This is your house. This is my house. You want to turn up here? I'm bringing nerve. I'm getting the belt here and I'm coming for you. I promise. I can't wait. Watch this. Why not? Why not? They're all fans. Look at them. They're all fans. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of you. I'm not a fan of you. I can't wait. No, everybody hates you. Yeah. Okay. I can't wait. Yeah. This is up. You got cake on your face, man. It's true, you're a joke. Anyways, I apologize. Fuck. It's me. Yeah. It's fine. It's all good.
Subtitles, WWE, subtitles. You plaster El Fiscal's promo all over the place, and I don't understand a word he fucking said. All I heard was Roman Reigns, and yeah, you lost the tournament. Final four for the Roman Reigns tournament is in place. Obviously, most of us believe it's going to be Penta versus Rey Fénix in the finals, with Penta going on to face Roman Reigns in Mexico. We shall see. I tell you, pretty good last couple of days for WWE. SmackDown, excellent show. Raw tonight gave me almost the vibes of the night after SummerSlam. It goes to show you that if you really take a little bit extra time and, plan out some of this better, it kind of works out. Now, don't get me wrong. This rinse and repeat with the bloodline is, it's here. There's nothing we can do about it. We're not going to scream and yell and complain on social media, and WWE's going to change anything. And I'll be honest with you, when you think of the rest of the roster, I don't want to see Oba Femi being the number one guy in the company right now. He will go through that roster so goddamn quick that it's going to get old very, very quickly. Even with Bron Breakker. You know, last Wednesday we had fun. You know, this is why you never fly coach. And the coach, you know, once again, your boy got scoops. Your boy got scoops of bullshit. Ain't no issues with Bron Breakker. They announced tonight on Raw that Sunday night's main event is going to feature Oba Femi versus Bron Breakker, and I know exactly how that match is going to go down, and I think a lot of you as well. Just like we knew, not that we knew, but we hoped. I think hoped is probably the better way to put it. Last Monday when we did the Raw review, we hoped that Solo Sikoa tonight would hit the Samoan spike on Roman Reigns, and sure enough, that's what we got. You know, yeah, this is kind of strange because now you ask yourself after tonight's Raw, is Roman Reigns a heel? Are the Usos a heel? I think that's probably the biggest kink in this armor right now. With everything that it's led up, I mean, I get it. Bloodline infighting. All right, when family members fight, you know, they could all be heels, they could all be babyface, they could be a combination thereof. But for the wrestling fan, you know, who do they cheer for? Who do they jeer for? And yes, you can have feuds where it's two baby faces, more rare two heels, because most people will be like, I'll just let both of yourselves kill yourself. You know what I mean, career-wise, not physically. So people, I think in this story, want a more concise path forward. And I think tonight we kind of got that. And yeah, this kind of is starting to set up Survivor Series. Now, we don't know what the 5-on-5 will be, or if it's a 4-on-4, which I definitely don't expect to see. But now it kind of feels like we may get Roman Reigns and the Usos versus Solo and LA Knight, and maybe Royce Keys, you know, when he returns, and what else could be? I mean, Jacob Fatu is the wild card right now, but that's kind of, it feels like where they're going with this. Now, remember, Saturday night's main event is not until October 9th. You know, we're only August 17th. So this is going to drag on, my friends. This is going to drag. And remember, Roman is not on every week. In fact, I don't have his schedule in front of me, but when we visited it last week, it's like every 2 weeks. So next week, I don't think Roman Reigns is on. So you get 1 week with him and LA Knight, and then you get a week of nothing. And then you get a week with LA Knight again, and then you get a week with nothing. And remember, for the final 3 weeks leading up to Money in the Bank, I think Roman is only on once. And that's going to kind of suck with this feud with LA Knight if that's the title match they're going for at Money in the Bank. But I tell you what, I saw tonight, I enjoyed it. I think Sol Ruca had the best match that she has had so far on the main roster. And you could see, obviously, the people online, oh, WWE's lost faith in Sol Ruca. These are people that just think they're on the pulse of what is going on in wrestling, and they see how the vibe is online, and they try to play off of that like news, and they fail 9 times out of 10. But I think Sol Ruca had the match of her main roster career against Lyra Vaquer, and let's also give Lyra Vaquer credit. She put on a damn good performance also. My worry is Lyra Vaquer the new, and I don't want anybody to really take this too extreme. I don't want to call her the heel jobber. I'm not saying that. But if you notice on Monday Night Raw, there's only so many times that Roxanne Perez could get pinned. And yeah, it's probably going to happen next week again. But they don't have a plethora of heels that will lose repeatedly. I mean, you had Ivy Nile on TV for a while, and they've kind of like pushed that aside, which sucks because Ivy Nile is pretty damn good. From where she's come and where she is now, pretty damn good. But you look at this and you kind of feel like, is there a path for Lyra Vaquer for anything right now with championship gold? And I don't think so. I'm not saying she's being buried. No way, shape, or form am I saying she's being buried. I just think for the time being, hey, Lyra, right now, we're going to focus on Liv. We're going to focus on Stephanie Vaquer. We're going to, try to, build Ruca a little bit. So you got to take a little bit of a back seat. I mean, not everybody could be, in the hunt all the time. And make no mistake about it, Becky Lynch right now is helping elevate some of the talent too. It's going to be interesting once she crosses paths with Ruca again. That will be happening. But as you see, there are a few people left out. Io Sky, once again, disappeared. And, let's not forget what we brought up 2 weeks ago. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting when we always see things a little bit before everyone else. And 2 weeks ago, we did this on Sunday. The WWE has a Seth Rollins problem. And this is 2 weeks in a row that some news outlets out there were promoting that Seth Rollins is going to be on Raw. Not only has he not been on Raw, have you heard the words Seth Rollins at all? Really, I mean, he has suddenly become persona non grata as far as WWE television goes. And listen, you look at that 3 years of matches, when you realize since TKO bought that company, the most number of matches, and you know what? We're going to obviously get more into Raw. We got some wrestling news to get into. Some interesting things. We're going to have some fun with the Bret Hart story. That's, all over a lot of bullshit websites right now. That's a funny story. Some of you already know where that's going. We're also going to talk about someone who is coming to OnlyFans. This one is going to be interesting. It kind of gives me, it doesn't give me Tammy Sitch vibes. It gives me Tammy Bitch vibes. And if anybody knows why I said that, props to you. But, the few things, when you see what is going on, here's some news. And this is a great segue for me to talk about more with the Seth Rollins thing. CM Punk was at NXT's house show this weekend. We talked about it on Wednesday Night Dynamite. He had a great showing. He was involved in a 6-man tag. He actually wrestled on the show, actually took a move from one of the female talents there. Had a blast. And, you could see that CM Punk, listen, when you're paid extremely, extremely well, and you don't have the drama and you don't have the pressure of people trying to get your ass out of the company, work can be more fun. And it's obviously a lot of fun for CM Punk right now. But the thing is, with CM Punk, get a load of this. WWE just announced CM Punk's schedule from now till October. Now, we're in middle of August. From the middle of August to October, they have announced an additional 20 dates for CM Punk. And I'm going to share those dates with you right now. Now, granted, that doesn't mean that he's wrestling on every single card, but I have a feeling he's going to be wrestling most of them. And why, to me, this is a big fucking deal? Think about this. CM Punk is going to work over 20 dates. When you think of what he's done in August already, up until October, he would have worked about 30 dates. Seth Rollins, in the last 3 years since TKO bought that company, the most amount of matches he had in 1 year was 24. CM Punk is going to outdo that in 2 months compared to an entire year. And yes, there's been injuries, no question. But when you realize WWE has a Seth Rollins problem right now, trust me, people will stop picking up on it. Doesn't mean they have absolutely nothing for him. I'm not saying that. I could picture someone out there, he gets involved with, a fucking Alpha Academy member or a Street Profit once they're back. And people are like, see, I told you there wasn't a problem. There is a Seth Rollins problem. But look at this schedule for CM Punk right now. And for anybody that's on audio only, I'm going to just give you the date, location, and what the show is, because you might want to go to one of these. August 14th is what we just had on Friday. And then NXT Saturday was, in Petersburg, Virginia. He was there. So now you have London, Ontario, August 20th for a house show. Toronto, Ontario for Friday's SmackDown. August 22nd in Alberta, Edmonton for the house show. Calgary the 23rd for a house show. He's going to be on Monday's Raw next week in Ottawa. Now, it's probably going to be a dark match, and just a preemption notice, Raw next week takes place in Canada, and it starts at 6 p.m. Eastern. So next Monday, Raw starts at 6 p.m. Eastern instead of 8 p.m. Eastern, which means that we will be going live sometime around 8:30 p.m. next week. We will be live right after Raw goes off the air. But remember, Raw starts 2 hours early next week because they're in Canada. So he will be on that show. Now, probably they're putting him on it since Roman won't be on. So, but it's probably going to be a dark match. Then you have August 28th, Friday. That's the Raw taping and the SmackDown Live event. Don't know if he'll be on both shows, but he will be on August 28th in Cleveland. August 29th in Savannah, Georgia at a house show. August 30th, North Charleston, South Carolina at a house show. Sunday night's main event in Atlanta, Georgia. They are advertising CM Punk for Sunday night's main event. No match has been announced as of yet for CM Punk, but he's being advertised for Sunday night's main event. And I tell you, the two matches they already have announced, this might go down in one of the best Saturday night's main event cards in recent years. And I know that they had a hiatus, but you have three legitimate premium live event caliber matches brewing. And yes, WWE doesn't have a premium live event in September. Then you have Mexico. September 9th in Guadalajara for a house show. September 10th for a house show in Monterrey. September 11th in Mexico City for SmackDown. The following SmackDown, September 18th in Corpus Christi, Texas. You see how many appearances he's making? September 25th for SmackDown in Indianapolis. Worlds Collide. He is being advertised for Worlds Collide in Chicago, Illinois. He's probably going to give a luchador a title shot. That's probably going to go down September 26th. Then you have October 2nd, SmackDown in Denver. October 9th in Lafayette. October 16th in Sacramento, California. October 23rd, they're in Ontario, California. And then October 30th for SmackDown, Charleston, West Virginia. So what he's doing over the next 2 months is more than any year that Seth Rollins has done in 3 years. And I'm not shitting on Seth Rollins. In no way, shape, or form am I doing that. But somebody on YouTube, the comment section, brought up an interesting comment. And I know it sounds ridiculous for some on the surface, but you have to take a step back and think about it for a minute. This person was saying, you think Seth Rollins down the line should go to AEW. And I get it. Not everybody should just leave WWE and go to AEW. And my initial reaction was, plethora of new opponents, interesting lineups. He obviously is one of the biggest names in wrestling for the last 15 years. And then I was like, yeah, but I just don't see that happening. And then I reminded myself, this is TKO, man. This is TKO. I mean, TKO obviously will keep their biggest pieces on the chessboard. But this is not the Vince McMahon company anymore. This is TKO, and it's straight up business. And if they feel that they're not maximizing the amount of money they're paying Seth Rollins, I don't care about Good Day Football. I don't care about any of that shit. As far as his WWE contract goes, if TKO feels they're not getting a lot on their return or they're not getting enough, I wouldn't be surprised if they told him, hey, I think you need a little pay cut here. You're not producing as much. So it's not out of the question. It's not out of the question. Would I want to see Seth Rollins in AEW? I don't know about that. I honestly don't know. I really don't. I mean, I see people going to AEW, some people I really enjoyed, whether they were TNA guys or WWE releases, or some people that I always felt should have been gone to the next level. And then they just make appearances. I don't know if you guys saw the pair of trios matches that they're advertising for this Wednesday. I don't have them in front of me. But one of them is like Will Ospreay and two other names that I've heard of before, but it's like not like household names. And they're taking on like members of the Don Callis family is going up against the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. And you have like El Clan, like names. We're less than 2 weeks from All In. And they're doing exactly what we talked about on last night's sit down. You remember last night's sit down? When somebody super shouted me about AEW and that old magical feeling, like it just felt like a religious experience. It felt like some of those shows on TV were, pay-per-view atmosphere. And now it just feels that they're just putting matches on just to give everybody a little bit of play. And you see random people facing random people, and lo and behold, today we get the announcement for Wednesday, and neither one of those six. Could someone in the chat pull up the 2 6-man tag lineups so I could share with everyone? I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't want to see Will Ospreay wrestle or Kenny Omega wrestle, but these matches are just thrown on TV just to give people work, and it's not very appealing. And I see there's a lot of complaining online, and I think rightfully so. So, all right. While somebody's... Okay, so here we go. One fall. Thank you very much, my friend. The Elite, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega versus Brian Cage, Lance Archer, and Rocky Romero. Gee, I wonder what the fuck that outcome of that match is going to be. You know what I mean? And it'll probably go 16 minutes, unnecessarily. And then you have Will Ospreay, Hanare, and Francesco Akira versus El Clan, Jake Doyle, and Mark Davis. To be honest. If I'm being honest. I mean, it's like the road to WrestleMania, and you're literally less than 2 weeks from WrestleMania, and you got like Roman Reigns, or, Roman Reigns challenging CM Punk, obviously. You got Roman Reigns, let's say, facing, I don't know, Tozawa. Or Creed brother, or you have your biggest tag team on the card, which I don't even know who the biggest tag team would be in WWE right now, if we're being honest. And you're putting up them against like 3 random people. It's just not appealing to me. United Empire, yes, obviously. So Kieran Hanares, but anyway, listen. When I do these shows, I'm very, very honest, and I'm brutally honest. And I think I have gained a shitload of respect from people for saying what I mean and meaning what I say. Sometimes my mouth gets me in trouble, but I don't hold back. And I'm not afraid of criticism, not afraid of ramifications, not afraid of being ousted or ignored or ghosted. It's the way it is. It's been that way since the 90s, and I'll take it because we're still doing this, and I love all you guys that support me and supported Kev and everything that we've done in the past. But I will call things out as I see it. Doesn't mean that I'm right all the time, but we don't beat around the bush. And there is a bizarre story developing right now involving Janelle Grant. Now, I do believe the story she's telling. What I'm finding interesting about it is Janelle Grant, and you guys may remember 2 years ago, Kevin and I predicting that she is going to get addicted to having like an audience of many, paying attention to her. I think that was a lot of where Vince manipulated her. When you have all these guys drooling all over you, I knew someone who was, what you want to call it, an nympho, you want to call her a slut, whatever you want to call it. I never did anything with her. She didn't want to have anything to do with me. I was over 300 pounds at the time. I probably smelled like sweaty balls. I didn't score, and I'm kind of glad that I did. I take pride that all my friends probably had to get a tetanus shot. Me, I just, hung out outside. I'm like, I'm not interested. And most of my friends, they would politely just walk away. One of my friends would be an asshole like, yeah, you're not interested because she wouldn't fuck you anyway. But the thing is some people are addicted to the attention. And Kevin and I said 2 years ago, and I'll pull that fucking episode up if people push me. 2 years ago, we said that once all this is done with this lawsuit, suddenly Janelle Grant is gonna, want to be the center of attention and looking for that audience online to notice her. And she went on Instagram and she posted this photo. Now, I originally was going to wait until Wednesday to talk about this, to maybe do a little bit more research about it. But I do believe the story she is telling. What I find interesting about it is all of the additives and preservatives. In fact, you know what? Yeah, I think we need to. This bottle's almost empty. We went through this shit so freaking fast, man. We're gonna have to. We have to take the Zambuca out for this one. She added so many additives and preservatives to this story. It's like, I'm not trying to be a dick. Why are you telling us all this? This was an advocate for survivors, and obviously we know that where that turned. So let me pull a picture back up, and I want to show you guys. I want to read you what she wrote on social media. And I want to make this clear. When you see the bruises on her legs and you see the bruises on her arms, now to be honest with you, the bruises on her arms, I think is more from fucking blood pressure, cuffs and everything. I don't know if that's actually from what happened, but she posted this on social media. Now, thank God she got a detailed description, because I think other people would think that there's some type of relations of violence going on. This is what she wrote. And I quote, "I tripped on the edge of a carpet runner. I remember falling. I don't remember falling for days. I was alone. My worst fear realized turned out to be my new beginning. It took a serious accident to realize the full picture of daily atrophy that's happened since June of 2022. Every area of life has been impacted down to my skin and bones. Holding a job, support system, safety, mental health, physical strength, finances, and stability in everything. It took a serious accident to realize how these years of, quote, be brave and stay alive resembled my dad's bed-to-chair hospice. It was my walk back to bed that I tripped and fell into a wooden bed frame, wall unit with floating cabinets. I blacked out. I think it happened at the end of July or the start of August. I have no memory of the days that followed. I don't know if I hit my head or that I kept falling. I have no memory from those days of blood trails, bruising, busted body parts, and becoming an unrecognizable version of myself. My next memory is days later. I was being driven to a hospital out of concern for my well-being. I had a concussion, broken ribs, and a lung hemorrhage. I remember crying during the information intake. Married, family, employee, insurance, emergency contact. I didn't have any of these. And I just thought of something. How did you know? You blacked out. You didn't know nothing. You're like, maybe you forgot. I'm just saying. But anyway, she says, behind a curtain, alone, on morphine. I stared at my feet and cried. Flooded with memories, I reunited with the ghost of my past while coming to terms with the broken present. I broke. Everything broke. And I grieved it all. I know this hospital. I know this emergency room. This is the hospital where my dad passed away. The last day I ever had family was spent here. This goes on and on. This is the hospital where I returned to be a volunteer. A place to pick myself up and have a purpose helping others while I search for a job. This is the hospital where I greeted everyone with, hi, my name is Janelle. JJ, an old nickname that was easy for patients to remember. This is where I stood at the foot of my bed to help patients put on the socks that I now wear. In 2019, I returned my volunteer badge ahead of starting a new job. I embarked on a path that ultimately returned me to the exact spot in 2026, a broken patient with no emergency contact waiting also behind a curtain. I'm sharing this to give peace of mind to people who have expressed concern about me. My slow responses are a result of the healing process. It's exhausting, painful, and slow. Here's the irony. Despite everything in my life breaking, I've never felt more alive. I've also never believed more in the power of humanity to rally around someone in need. I feared an accident happening to me or my cat because I'm alone. The last few years of chaos in life left only a few people brave enough to maintain my remote presence and answer a phone call. If this happened last year or the year before, I can't think of one person with enough consistent presence in my life who would have detected that I was injured and needed to go to the hospital. Because I have hindsight from years of lived experience, I appreciate how much worse this could have been. It's almost done, everybody. The people who were game-changing, difference-making, life-saving Good Samaritans were not here to witness my injured state, but sensed I needed help. They stopped their lives and listened. Some of them had only my number for a few months. Regardless of their physical location, they didn't keep distance. They took action. They made calls, cast a net, and did things I can't remember because I concussed. How they treated me in that moment when I needed help but didn't know it reflected what's in their hearts: compassion, patience, and human kindness. Thank you. Everything from my bones to my bank account is still broken. Any problem I had yesterday will still be there tomorrow, but I'm sitting in gratitude, and it feels like a joyous, hard-won, defiant, against the odds, honest celebration of life. I'm still here, still breathing. I might be hobbling, but I've never been more excited about attending the Alliances next month. My worst fear turned out to be proof that I'm already in a new beginning. I stopped counting the days. I'm making the days count. It took a serious accident and everything breaking to realize, finally, I'm not alone. Why didn't you just email the people that were concerned about you? Why didn't you just pick up the phone? This is strange, but expected. And listen, I don't want to see the girl have any accidents or, this. But, this was just very, very bizarre to put this out there like that. And this is something that, again, she thinks she's got this giant platform now. And, it's because, and remember this, there's a lot of people with kid gloves about this situation because they hate Vince more. And the thing is, pretty girl taking advantage from Vince, that's enough for me. I don't care if she's made a deal with the devil. I don't care if it was money all along. I don't care if they lied about a whole bunch of people waiting to, tell their story and, doing this and advocates and all this other stuff. I don't care if, NDAs were always the right thing, if you're being honest. For them, it's the hatred for Vince McMahon more than anything else gives this woman let's be honest, a false sense of security. She thinks that she's got a world of supporters now because Vince McMahon took advantage of her. And listen, I do believe Vince McMahon's a creep. I would never want Vince McMahon as my father. But putting this out there and, taking the photos, selfies of your arm, your feet, your legs, your neck, and all whatever, it's like, this is strange. This is strange. 1 minute you're saying you have nobody you could call for assistance, but then you have a bunch of people that, would getting in touch with you for months, only have my phone number for months. It's just interesting. It's interesting that all this is being put out there. I don't wish any pain on her. I really don't. I don't know anything about her. I don't know, the level of what she said was true. I think somewhere between her version and Vince's version is the truth. But, this is something that we kind of talked about 2 years ago, that she's going to start putting this out there like a platform for a whole bunch of people to pay attention. So, and listen, she's about to get paid big time. So, all right. I just wanted to share it. I was not planning on bringing it up tonight. I was going to wait till Wednesday. But once I read the statement, I'm like, yeah, I gotta get into this. So, all right. Now we can move that shit out of the way. You know what? I do want to talk about one other woman, and then we'll get into Raw. We'll get into some other news. We'll get into some super shout outs as well. Thank you for your generosity too, by the way. No one else is talking about this. I figured you probably get a little kick out of it. Somebody is joining OnlyFans. And obviously, you know, she's got an interesting wrestling career. You know, we know her mostly from ECW originally, and then she ended up going to WWE and the infamous storyline with Tori Wilson and Al Wilson, and that's Dawn Marie. Some of you may remember that I actually became a little friendly with Dawn Marie back in the day when she was doing Wrestler's Rescue. She had a lot of bullshit coming her way from Kamala. And if you remember that whole disaster, I mean, you know, I know everything that happened. I saw the books. I still have old emails saved between me and Dawn Marie. You know, Kamala wanted money from Wrestler's Rescue. And the way Wrestler's Rescue was trying to be put together, you can't just simply just hand out money for no reason. And I remember, I'll never forget when he put that video out there, Dawn Marie, no good. Remember that? And we exposed the whole thing. And I thought I was being an honest, you know, person, bringing out the truth. And people were like, wow, you're fucked up, man. Kamala's got no legs. He's fucking diabetic. He can't even walk. His career his quality of life is all fucked. And you're more about exposing, you know, it was just a messed up situation. But, you know, Dawn Marie, you know, I never had an issue with. Well, she's coming to OnlyFans, all right? And believe it or not, there's an interesting article online. And for anybody out there, you might remember recently Dawn Marie being a special guest referee or was advertised for one for an an NXT match in the former ECW arena. When NXT went to the old ECW arena, remember they had a few people in the crowd, Little Guido showed up and a few others. She was there too. So, you know, you see her, you know, not really doing much of anything. You know, you don't really know. But at autograph signings, this is what Dawn Marie looks like right now. And I'm not saying this in any bad way, but, you know, let's just put it this way. And I say this jokingly, bologna. I feel like having a bologna sandwich right now. She is built. She is built. So anyway, just to sum up the story, if you want to look a little bit further, you can. It's kind of like the anniversary. This week is the anniversary. Heath Slater. I got kids. Remember Brock Lesnar, fuck your kids. Well, Dawn Marie's got kids too. And she's got school bills, education, a lot of other things going on. And she has decided that, you know, to make some ends meet a little bit easier, she's setting up an OnlyFans. I will tell you two things right up front so everybody knows. Number one, there's no nudity. She claims there's no nudity. So be prepared for that. It is going to be teasing. It's going to be a little risque. I mean, I think some of these outfits might be a little bit see-through, but no full-blown nudity. So for anybody out there that's thinking that, and it's $12.95. So if anybody out there, hey, I think she looks really good for $55, but she is on OnlyFans. So if anyone out there that wants to check out, hey, we could say it, wants to check out a MILF, Dawn Marie is now on OnlyFans. So there you go. I just figured I'd share it because I know no one else is really talking about it. So sometimes we want to get into things that no one else is talking about. So I you know what? We can say one more thing. Bronson Reed is getting very close to a return. And yes, I think he may get involved in Sunday night's main event. In fact, let's talk about two very big things that happened on Raw tonight. One was the interaction with Paul Heyman, Oba Femi, and Bron Breakker. And obviously the other is the ending of Raw. All right, everything in the middle was solid. Everything in the middle was solid. Every match was excellent tonight. That's why I really enjoyed this Raw. But for those that don't know, Bronson Reed has put out another photo of him training. This motherfucker has lost probably about 70 pounds. he is not so big, Bronson Reed anymore. There's no longer a tsunami, but this guy is still jacked as fuck. Basically, what's happening is all of the strength that Bronson Reed had, it is now being defined. That's the best way I could put it. This guy looks like a monster. And let me tell you something, I think people are going to have shades of like Braun Strowman, only shorter. You know, when he comes in, he's going to have that physical attribute. It's going to be like a thicker Big Bill, Big Kaz. He is getting near to a return. And he looks phenomenal. And we could talk about this to open up. WWE is blowing their load a little bit early. September 6th, Sunday night's main event. Oba Femi will take on Bron Breakker. Next week on Raw will be the contract signing. September 6th is a lot closer than you think. We're only, 3 Saturdays away? We're only 3 Saturdays away. So after next week, there's only 2 Saturdays. After next week, there's only 1 Raw before Oba versus Bron. So now how this went down on Raw tonight and where I think this is going to go, and I think a lot of you will agree with me. First of all, we had a segment with the Vision in the back. And listen, I'm not reading notes. I'm just telling you from what I remember on the show. The Vision were in the back with Kathy Kelly. Logan Paul obviously opened up talking a little smack. Maxine Dupree was busy talking gushy stuff with Austin Theory, so she really wasn't paying attention, but they then segued from Logan Paul to Maxine Dupree. She's making fun of what they did to Otis and Austin Theory repeatedly beating up on Tozawa. This leads to Austin Theory cutting a promo and saying what he says. And then Bron Breakker is there. Kathy Kelly looks at Bron Breakker and she asks him, do you have anything to say about what happened with Oba Femi last week? And Bron Breakker says, if I have anything to say to Oba Femi, I'll say it to his face. And Bron walks off by himself. Goes through Gorilla, music hits, crowd is popping big time. Bron Breakker hits the ring. Bron gets on the mic, immediately calls out Oba Femi. We don't get Oba Femi's music right away. We get Paul Heyman. And Paul gets on the mic. My name is Paul Heyman. He talks about being a former advocate for the Beast and this and that. And he talks, and yes, I do have the Oba clip, the impersonation, that is running wild right now. If you didn't see it, I know we won't get hit with copyrights because it's too short, but Paul Heyman is cutting a promo. And Paul Heyman gets in the ring while Bron is in the ring. And Paul Heyman says, you know, the question on everybody's mind is who is the future of WWE? And, you know, he's sort of teasing it a little bit. And no, he's not going to do the generic. There could be more than one person as the future. The battle for the future is the selling point. The battle of the future is, you know, when you remember when AEW had the pillars battling each other, you know, you wanted to feel, yes, there were pillars, but you want one to be the main foundation of them all. You don't want it to be 4 equal things. Same thing in wrestling. Each person feels that they are the future, and you have to keep it that way. You can't suddenly say, well, you're the future, and 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 you're the future. Can't do that. That's milquetoast. It's boring. That's generic. That's dumb. So as they're doing this, Oba's music hits, and Oba comes out. And, you know, before Oba comes out, Paul Heyman asks, Bron Breakker asks Paul Heyman, who do you think? Do you think Oba's the future of WWE? And Paul dodges it. He dodges the question. So Oba Femi comes out, and he gets on the mic, and he says about Bron Breakker, he says, you know, you like to ask stupid questions. And he says, I knew it. They knew it. Brock Lesnar knew it. Everybody knows the future is Oba Femi. But Oba, you know, in case people don't know still, Oba Femi is doing kind of what Kofi Kingston did early in his WWE career. Kofi Kingston had this Jamaican accent. Oba Femi has this Nigerian accent for his character. Oba Femi this accent is part of his act. All right, so he's very good at it. Well, apparently Oba Femi is also good at impersonating white Georgia guys. White Georgia guys. Just white people. He did an impersonation of Bron Breakker that I actually had to listen to it back 2 or 3 times. And I was like, holy shit, Oba Femi sounds more Bron Breakker than Bron Breakker sometimes. For anybody that missed it, I gotta play this for you. Just listen closely. This is Oba Femi. And this is him, repeating Bron Breakker's question. Paul, you think the future of this is Oba Femi you're about to hear. I'm going to share with you. Ready? Here we go.
Asking stupid questions.
Who's the future, Paul?
Asking stupid questions.
Who's the future, Paul?
And I think Bron Breakker's facial reaction at the very end says it all. He was about to laugh. He fucking killed it. He killed it. I mean, and I don't think Bron was expecting that. He looked like he was about to laugh, man. But, obviously, Oba's putting himself over. Next thing you know, Bron wants to fight right now. And Paul Heyman pulls the TKO. That's not a good idea, Bron. WWE's a publicly traded company. Not only do we have to answer to the fans, we have to answer to stockholders. Yeah, obviously. And that's not how we do things. So he's going the corporate route, that this needs to be done the right way. It's a bigger platform. And Paul Heyman reveals that on Sunday, September 6th? Sunday, September 6th, Oba Femi will take on Bron Breakker in his home town, Atlanta, Georgia, at Sunday night's main event. Paul Heyman made the deal with Adam Pearce. It is official. It happens on Sunday, September 6th. Next week is a contract signing. Now, what do I think of this? Well, obviously, this is possibly a WrestleMania match. Could be a WrestleMania match in Saudi Arabia, no question. What I see happening, I think, is clear as crystal. There will not be a decisive winner. You can't have a decisive winner this soon. Austin Theory, in the Visions promo tonight, said something that caught my eye. If you remember, when Seth Rollins issued the challenge for Roman Reigns at SummerSlam, do you remember the night that Seth issued the challenge and said that you've never beaten me and you cannot go the rest of your career knowing that you can't beat me? What did we say that night? We said this 10 minutes after Raw went off the air. The minute Seth said that, he already set up what is going to happen at SummerSlam. That was it. It's a great selling point why the match should happen. But in doing that, he revealed what is likely going to happen. And that's what happened. I think Austin Theory, what he said tonight, just gave away what we're likely going to see happen at Sunday night's main event. Austin Theory didn't like being disrespected last week from Oba Femi. And he feels there's a receipt that is needed. Now, sure, we didn't have a match on Raw tonight between Austin Theory and Oba Femi. We're not having one next week, obviously, and they ain't going to do one as the go-home Raw before Sunday night's main event. So most people will probably see where I'm going with this. When this match gets to a point where Oba Femi may actually defeat Bron Breakker, Austin Theory is likely going to get involved and cause a disqualification. Logan Paul physically cannot go yet, so Logan Paul will not be physically involved. Austin Theory will likely be the catalyst, and that will lead probably to a match between Austin Theory and Oba Femi, where Austin Theory will get his ass kicked. Maybe Bron Breakker attacks Oba Femi after the match is over or during the match, whatever it is. But then you also got to think about Bronson Reed. If you're going to have Bronson Reed return, Sunday night's main event would be a fucking awesome place to do it. Because yes, Austin Theory could cause the initial DQ. And you could even tease where Bron is not extremely thrilled that Austin Theory did that, which I don't believe will happen. I don't think they're going to tease dissension like that, regardless of what Colts tried to sell you last week. But while Oba may about to get his hands on Austin Theory at Sunday night's main event to beat the shit out of him after what he just caused in the match, that's where you have Bronson Reed make his return. And I think people would fucking lose their minds, not only that Bronson Reed returns, but when you see the condition that he is now in and the freak of nature that he looks like. And I personally would think that Bronson Reed Oba Femi feud would be an awesome way to bring Bronson Reed back to the main roster. You know, some people are already saying, bring Bronson Reed back by himself. He doesn't need division. You know, let him go back by himself. And I disagree. I think Bronson Reed is absolutely necessary because you don't want to get into that pattern where Austin Theory has to do all the jobs all the time. And Bron Breakker has had his share of losses earlier this year. That's kind of a little bit by the wayside now. You know, there's no more concerns about that. So if Bronson Reed is this close of a return, Sunday night's main event is the place to do it. I don't know what you guys think, but one thing is for certain. Yes, this match sounds awfully soon, and it should, but there's obviously going to be a bullshit finish, so there is no winner. Yes, there might be a statistical winner because of a disqualification, but you're not having a clear pinfall. You're not going to go out of this match saying that Bron is a little bit ahead of the game than Oba or vice versa. You're not going to get that. The answer will not be made Sunday, September 9th. And you could bank on that. And I think a lot of you out there probably feel the same exact way as me. There's no way. There's just no way. But it's a nice way to start it off. And you obviously have to define Paul Heyman's role a little bit more. And I don't see Paul Heyman taking the side of Oba Femi this soon. That would not work. So I personally think if you're going to realign Paul Heyman with the Vision, you do it, especially when Bronson Reed returns. Put Paul Heyman with the Vision entirely. And then you want to do this next year, the year after, then you can segue into something different. But right now, I do not want to see Paul Heyman as an advocate for Oba Femi. You could do that in the future, but not now. And I don't think it's a setup either. I don't feel Paul Heyman is setting up Oba Femi. I think the story with the mutual respect from Brock is legit, and Paul Heyman giving flowers to Oba is very important for Oba's future. You don't want fans to think that Paul Heyman's just talking out of his ass because it's a setup. You want people to think that there is a lot of legitimacy to what he says. But remember, Bron has to prove to Paul Heyman that he warrants his respect. And I think with an Austin Theory interference and a Bron Breakker return and leaving Oba Femi laying on the mat, I think that's where Paul Heyman says, yeah, you've earned my respect. I'm back. And I think that's the way to go. So I'm definitely all for this. I am absolutely all for it. So, okay. We might as well do a little bit more of Raw. Let's recap a little bit. Let's get into some questions as well. I do want to share one very quick thing. I might as well get it out of the way now because I think some of you out there will find this pretty fucking funny and sad at the same time. I'm sure a lot of you have seen, and I'm getting a screenshot ready for all of you out there. I'm sure you have seen over the last 24 hours a bunch of wrestling news sites, message boards, podcasts, talking about Bret Hart and his latest comments about professional wrestling. And you could Google it. You could go on X. You could just search around. And I, saw numerous articles about this today. And I have one on my screen right now that I'm going to share with you. And I definitely want you to take a look at this. That is not the way it should look. All right. Hang on 1 second. Let me see if I could fix. Oh, okay. There we go. There we go. There you are. There you are. Good. All right. So this is pretty much the article that everybody has paid attention to. And I'm just going to pull it down just a little bit so you could see the story. So just give me 1 second. Let's uncrop this. Let's see. Why is this? Oh, I see why it's not working. Okay. Let's see. I don't know why it's cutting off because it wasn't doing that earlier. Maybe if I pull this over here. Hold on a second. Something ain't right. Something doesn't seem right over here. Huh. This is strange. This is very strange. I don't know why it's cut off on one side, but yeah, this is kind of bizarre. So hang on 1 second. Let me see if I could fix this because it's definitely worthwhile to show you. So let me change the screen. Okay, here we go. I think this will fix it. Yeah, I think this shelf. Yeah, it did fix it. Okay, good. See, persistence always helps. There you go. Now I can zoom in a little bit and you could get an idea. There you go. All right. So this is just an example of one particular website. All right. Bret Hart on the state of wrestling today. Okay. As you could see, this story came out earlier today. There's a lot of wrestling news sites that are writing the same exact article. And, the first telltale sign that something is wrong is they don't reference the name of the interview that he was on. All it says is Bret Hart speaks on the current state of pro wrestling. And you click on it, and the quote is, I really roll my eyes at how pathetic wrestling is today from top to bottom. All the top wrestlers, all the middle and bottom wrestlers in the WWE and AEW, all slapping their legs on every punch and every slap. All right? Even that jerk-off Fade on X made this go viral. Go look. He's got like 2,000 comments today from people talking about Bret Hart. So this is the story everybody ran with. And when I saw it, I was like, all right, let me get the clip from the interview that he did. I'd like to share with everyone. And as I started researching, I can't find no interview. I can't find no clip. I can't find no podcast. So me, despite everybody reporting the story, I started to think I'm a little suspect about this. Lo and behold, I got my fucking answer. And I'm going to share my screen again so you can look at this. All right. This is an article from Fightful. All right. Look at the date of the article. The date of the article is April 3rd, 2023. This is almost 3.5 years ago. This is an interview that Bret Hart did with some show called HNL Live or HN Live. I looked on YouTube. The video interview is no longer there. I looked on archives. The interview is no longer there. But the transcript of the interview is still there. And I will highlight just this 2 sentences here. He says this in this interview, and I quote, I roll my eyes at how pathetic wrestling is today. Top to bottom, all the top wrestlers and all the middle bottom wrestlers in the WWE and AEW all slapping their leg on every punch and every slap. If you've seen that story today and the thousands of people talking about it, I want you to understand that they are posting an interview from 3.5 years ago. It is not a story. This is the latest from the clickbait clowns that just get a whole shitload of people talking. This is old news. This is not a story. It trended on X early today. That's how I even found out about it. So for all of you out there that keep following certain shows and certain websites and certain people online, understand that all these motherfuckers were posting that today. And it's a shame because some of my friends, I just showed you one website. I'm friendly with the guy. Guy used to have a hotline 25 years ago. A lot of people don't know Steve Gerwick, all right? And I'm like, I always joke around. I'm like, Steve, what kind of garbage do you have writing for you? It's never Steve putting that article out. It's always some Polak on his website. But he's not the only one. No DQ. No DQ. Yeah, here it is. Look, this is No DQ today. No DQ's website. Quote, I really roll my eyes at how pathetic wrestling is today from top to... They actually reported this as news. They put it in their message boards. They had hundreds of people commenting about it. This is a comment from 3.5 years ago. And they're playing it off that the interview just happened. So I just wanted to share it with you because no one else is. And even when we expose this fakeness, you see anyone else out there in the news world that, appreciates that? No. 3.5 years ago, he said that. Now, it is an interesting comment still 3.5 years later. But whenever you see those websites and they don't reference the interview source, that's a telltale sign that something ain't right. And the funny thing is, one news outlet did write Edge on Live, but what they didn't tell you is that the interview was 3.5 years ago. So I figured I'd share that with you. I figured you get a kick out of it. So, all right, let's recap Raw a little bit. Buffalo, New York, home of Mikey Whipwreck and the Buffalo Bills. 3 of them were in attendance today, and they were super over, man. Puts those Netflix stars to shame. It's funny how they show some of these Netflix people, they get no reaction whatsoever. None. You put just a random sports player for a home team, and everybody goes nuts for them. So, all right, so Raw, Buffalo, New York. Stephanie Vaquer comes out first. She wants a title back, plain and simple. Obviously, her English is not perfect yet, but she reminds everyone that wrestling is her first language, and she wants that puta, Liv Morgan, to come out. She wants a title back. So Liv comes out on the rampway with Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez. Good amount of booze, heel heat, no question. And Liv says she don't care about who paved the way before her. She doesn't care about who is going to be here after she's gone. All she cares about is her title, which obviously is not a good thing in the Judgment Day storyline, but all she cares about is a title and that she's champion. And as long as she is there, Stephanie Vaquer and Becky Lynch will never be champion. And she touts that how she is on her way to become the longest reigning women's champion of all time. So all 3 women hit the ring. You think, okay, Stephanie Vaquer is fucked. Who's going to come out and make the save? I think most of us expected Io Sky to be the first one. No. That was not the answer. All 3 women hit the ring, and early on, it looked kind of goofy. Stephanie Vaquer getting the best of Roxanne Perez, getting the best of Raquel Rodriguez. Raquel Rodriguez just tumbling over the top rope, kind of landing on her feet, and I'm like, why are you not right back in the ring? Just storyline-wise. But this gives Stephanie Vaquer a few moments with Liv Morgan. They brawl slightly, and then the numbers game kicks in. All 3 members of Judgment Day are beaten down on Stephanie Vaquer. Becky Lynch's music hits. Crowd goes nuts. Loud Becky chants. All the hatred for Becky is gone. She makes the save, but then she and Stephanie Vaquer bump into each other in the ring, and they're face to face. And do any of you guys kind of feel like we've seen this road before? I don't know if you agree with me, but when Becky made the save and then is face to face with Stephanie this early on, and there's a little bit of dissension, and then Becky turns around and lays out Liv Morgan a little bit more. This kind of felt like the early times of Nikki Bella and Stephanie Vaquer. When Nikki Bella, when Stephanie was kind of coming to the aid of Nikki before they were chummy. And then Nikki obviously turned on Stephanie, and we had what we had. Kind of reminded me a little bit of the Nikki Bella, Stephanie Vaquer interaction, but it was good enough. And, Becky ultimately would leave the ring, and, Liv would get a little bit of offense. You have to balance it out a little bit. You can't just leave the heels laying every single time. But this was very good. And, this dissension would carry on a little bit later. Because later on Raw, we had a segment in the back with Stephanie Vaquer and Kathy Kelly. And Kathy Kelly reveals to Stephanie Vaquer that her first match back since WrestleMania will be next week against Roxanne Perez. And Becky shows up. And Becky is being sarcastic about good luck next week. And, basically, Stephanie doesn't want Becky to be in her way. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. And Becky said to Stephanie that as long as you keep going for this title, I am your problem. So then she's like, good luck next week in your match. And she's pretty much setting up what's going to happen. The members of Judgment Day are all going to show up and they're going to ultimately beat the balls out of Stephanie Vaquer. So Becky is kind of mocking Stephanie Vaquer like, what's coming next week. Now, Becky probably will make the save again. Maybe she doesn't. I don't know. But, this is good interaction. And down the line, we could very well end up getting a three-way. Could end up being Liv versus Becky versus Stephanie Vaquer. And I kind of feel that's the way it could go because I could picture a three-way match and Stephanie Vaquer is about to win the title or Becky Lynch is about to win the title and then Liv Morgan throws one of those women out of the ring and she steals the pin. That's usually what WWE does with three-ways with a heel champion. Just when someone's about to win the title, here comes the heel champion throwing that person abruptly out of the ring and they go roll the person up who's laid out and steals the victory. We've seen that movie way too many times in the WWE. So that could be where they're going with this. But I like it. I thought it was good. And to see this side of Becky, she is very greedy about gold. So it does kind of make sense if you think about it. So I enjoyed it. Solo is coming home. Jimmy, with his new dread style hair, which I like, he's excited about it. Jay's excited. Solo is coming home. Jimmy is out first in the back. Then Jay comes out, starts talking shit, and here comes Solo. Solo's a little bit reluctant, but it's time, to get ready to be presented to Roman Reigns on a silver platter. And as they're walking in the back, here's LA Knight. He's speechless. He sees Jay, Jimmy, Solo. Solo doesn't really say anything. He's got this look on his face like, hey, I got to do what I got to do. He just looks at LA Knight. They walk through the back door with the Buffalo Bills logo on it. And LA Knight is there speechless. Doesn't say a thing. So we get that. Now, they set up an impromptu match during a commercial break. Now, if you remember what I got into yesterday about the 5 SmackDown segments cut, hopefully all of you tuned in yesterday because now you know what WWE truly was doing and what they're testing. And the idea is to give extra footage and bonus just to make everything flow a little bit more, tidy up some storylines, enhance stuff. You got YouTube with free advertising, fucking free storage. We got into the whole thing yesterday. And we talked about the international stream, and I appreciate the few of you out there who reached out to me that said, yeah, I watched it internationally, and yeah, they didn't show those segments. So why they did what they did. No one in their right mind obviously thought that WWE was trying to have 10 segments on a SmackDown, and 5 of them got cut because of time constraints. If anybody had believed that, I got a bridge I want to sell you. So they did this whole extravagant thing during a commercial break on Raw. Dominic and JD come out. Dominic is still pissed off about not being a cruiserweight, the Lucha, tournament. I keep saying cruiserweight, but the Lucha, tournament to face Roman Reigns in Mexico. Obviously, you know why Dom's not in the tournament, Brian Alvarez. And the funny thing is, if Dominic was so pissed off, why doesn't he get involved in the Lucha matches? Right? But instead, he's complaining during a commercial break, and here comes Javon Evans. Javon Evans interrupts Dom and JD McDonough, and they're like, hey, I'm pissed off. I want Big Cass. So JD's a little bit pissed off. Don't interrupt our segment. Don't interrupt us. What are you going to do about it? Let's get a referee. So next thing we know, we get JD McDonough versus Javon Evans. And what ends up happening, Javon Evans, early on selling a little bit of an ankle injury, knee injury, but still doing all his high-flying moves, which was a good thing because we knew he wasn't injured. But ultimately, Javon Evans would beat Jaden McDonough with his cutter and the OG cutter. And Dominic interfered a few times. Now, remember Dom and Jaden McDonough for a reason. So, match happens. Soon as the match is over and Javon Evans gets the win, here comes Big Cass. And remember, Javon called him out during a commercial break. So Big Cass shows up. As Corey Graves said, he waited until after the match is over to do this. And, Javon wants Big Cass. Big Cass shows up. And he basically is setting up Javon Evans. Javon Evans gets some offense. He's actually, doing some shit on Big Cass. Does a dive outside the ring. Big Cass goes flying. Javon Evans, he might get a little revenge on Big Cass. So Javon Evans, is standing ringside about to set up for a move. And here comes Dom out of nowhere. And he throws Javon Evans into the ring post. And it was funny because Dom runs to the back after I don't want nothing to do with Big Cass. Just runs to the back. And JD does the same, but as JD walks to the back, if you look closely, he slapped Big Cass on the ass. There you go. There you go. So they go to the back, and then Big Cass beats the balls out of Javon Evans. He drops him 3 times. Interesting how Michael Cole reminds us that Big Cass has done this to Javon Evans for 3 weeks. Next week will be the 4th Raw with Big Cass on there. And the only progress we've had is that he's got a 10-year vendetta, that he's got chips on his shoulder and he's pissed the fuck off and he wants revenge. And the first 4 Raws that he is back, it's Javon Evans. Boy, is this getting fucking old very, very quickly. But he leaves Javon Evans laying. Big Cass starts walking up the rampway. And Javon Evans gets the mic. He's still laid out on the mat, gets the mic, and he's breathing heavy, and he's like, hey, Cass, is that all you got? Big Cass is in disbelief. So he goes back into the ring, and we think, we're going to get a little bit, back and forth, but no. Once Dom did what he did, and Jaden McDonough, stormed off, Big Cass just beat the fuck out of him. Hit him with the Cross River, what was he called? The Cross River, East River Crossing. That's what he calls it. Hit the East River Crossing, left Javon laying, hit him with the big boot, which looks really fucking impressive. Listen, I remember, I'm not trying to single anybody out. Some people was friendly with in the past. I criticize, I praise because I want to, not because of anybody that I have mingled with or talked to or became friendly with. But I remember when Lars came around. And I remember even when you had AOP just laying out random people. And I remember the vibe that I felt while I was watching what I was watching. And random people, coming in as a heel and just destroying random people. It just felt like the fans didn't care all that much. It just didn't feel like it was going to develop into something huge. And with this Big Cass stuff, they're angry because Javon Evans is the one being laid out. But when you listen to the reaction, it's almost like a cue card. Heel just beat up, extremely likable babyface, boo him. It feels like cue cards. I just feel that the fans truly, they want to see Javon Evans get revenge on Big Cass, no question. But I don't think the fans would care less if Big Cass was on the show next week. And again, I've supported this guy for years. And I absolutely love the idea of him coming in. And you look at his physique, of course that is extremely tempting for WWE. That's intimidating to have someone that size. Like I said to you guys, we even joked 2 or 3 weeks ago and said maybe he could be the bodyguard for Dominic or Ethan Page or somebody else. But without Enzo, it's just not the same. I don't think he'll ever lose that stigma when it comes to WWE. And WWE could force it. You know, they may intentionally not be signing Enzo right now because they want to force this singles push for Big Cass, and they're convinced that sooner or later he's going to get over that hurdle and fans are going to buy into it and he'll be good. I just don't see it. It's not that I want to see it have a wet fart, but I just not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. And I personally, we're now three Raws. And this is what we got. 10-year vendetta. This is what it is. And then what? Then what do you do after this? Meanwhile, by the way, if you notice, there's quite a few people notably absent on the show. You know, some names I already mentioned. You got some very noticeable names absent. Now, I will say this. We had two Lucha semifinals. I keep saying cruiserweight, sorry. We had two semifinals in this tournament. And, you know, the final four is exactly what everybody thought it would be. You and I included. I don't think there's any, you know, this was probably arguably the most predictable tournament that WWE's ever done. Even the speed brackets, this is the most predictable tournament we've ever had. Penta beat Laredo Kid, obviously, so Penta advanced. And then tonight, you had Rey Fenix passing El Fiscal, and then Dragon Lee beating El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. We also had earlier in the week, La Parka advanced past Psycho Clown. So now the semifinals is set. Dragon Lee will take on Rey Fenix. And the winner of that match will take on the winner of Penta versus La Parka in the finals. And almost everybody and their mother wants to see Penta versus Rey Fenix. And I personally think it would be a tremendous match. I'm starting to wonder because it's WWE. You know, like, would they want to do brother versus brother on Monday Night Raw with a sign of respect? I kind of feel that it would not surprise me if Dragon Lee defeats Rey Fenix. Because WWE, obviously, it feels like WWE has more invested in Dragon Lee on the main roster than they do with Rey Fenix. Rey Fenix is a champion in AAA. It feels like WWE favors AAA for Rey Fenix more than the main roster. So I know most of you out there, including me, would love to see Penta versus Rey Fenix in the finals, and some people have predicted that since day one. It would not surprise me whatsoever if after next week's Raw, we end up pretty much with Penta versus Dragon Lee in the finals. And that will end up with Penta advancing, and it'll be Penta and Roman Reigns in Mexico for the championship. That's kind of where I feel this was, but let me tell you something. Both of those matches were off the hook today. You know, we were joking about El Fiscal at the beginning of the show, you know, because there was no subtitles and, you know, making all these proclamations, and I don't think anybody thought he had a rat's ass of a chance of winning the match, and he didn't. But, man, they put on a good match, and Buffalo was into it. You know, you would have thought Raw was in Texas or San Diego tonight, cheering for the Mexican Lucha Libre wrestling like they did, but they fucking ate it up. And I thought it was, my God, Rey Mysterio versus Chad Gable? That's an interesting match to go back and watch, and I'll tell you why. Because I saw some people immediately write, that's a match of the year candidate. I think they're on drugs. I think they felt that way because of the energy in the room. People were losing their shit in this match. There was one point that people thought Rey was winning this title. And the crowd went nuts. And people online were feeling it also. And that shows you the importance of a live crowd, a live audience. You know, it reminds you of how piss poor pathetic the pandemic was with nobody live in attendance. But those three matches tonight, because you could kind of say Chad and Rey was a little bit of lucha. Those three matches were off the hook. The crowd ate it up. And even Sol Ruca and Lyra Vaquer, as we said at the beginning of the show. WWE gave us some kick-ass matches tonight, And I'll be honest with you, I was happy for here did Dr. Wagner. And I was happy for El Fiscal because I still remember the Royal Rumble when they were in Saudi Arabia and La Parca and Mr. Iguana came out. Nobody fucking gave a shit. Nobody cared. And with a lot of AAA guys, if we're being honest, they're not regulars somewhat on WWE television. Fans will politely get into the match, but they're just, they're not recognizable names. But tonight, they fucking opened it up. And great matches tonight. So Rey Fénix defeated El Fiscal with the Mexican Muscle Buster. And then obviously we had the other match go down. Dragon Lee over El Hijo de Dr. Wagner. Spectacular 2 matches. And what was nice about it too is WWE gave them enough time and it felt like guys that were trying to win spot in a tournament to advance to possibly face Roman Reigns. Sometimes you watch tournament matches and people just give up way too soon. You're like, wow, that's for a title shot, or that's for a title, or it's for something big, and people will just job. It didn't feel like, I got to kick out at all costs. We've seen that. Even last week, the Solo Sikoa Jey Uso match, the finish was very, very uneventful. A little Jimmy Uso distraction. Jay hits his finisher. Solo gets pinned and it's like, wow, Solo didn't really I have to win this. I want to be done with them. But as we said last Monday, the saving grace would be that Solo would hit the Samoan spike on Roman Reigns. And thank God we got that tonight because a lot of people are on the fence about Solo Sikoa as a babyface. I still am as well. To me, he looks like a used car salesman. I don't trust used car salesmen. He looks like he's selling snake oil. And, I just, tonight, after what we saw, I think that solidified him a little bit more in the eyes of fans as a babyface. I think in the back of people's minds, they're expecting Solo to turn on LA Knight. And maybe tonight would have been the week. Maybe it would have been at SummerSlam. Many people thought SummerSlam was going to happen. I think people still have in their mind, nah, don't trust Solo. Don't trust that motherfucker. He's going to turn on LA Knight. I'm telling you. But tonight, after what we saw, I think it becomes clearer to fans, yeah, we got to cheer this guy. And Solo's got the charisma, man. I brought this up. I brought it up on Patreon. And people thought it was a fabulous comparison. And I think I brought it up on one of the other shows last week. I compare Solo Sikoa to Big E. And before anybody says, what are you, nuts? They're not nowhere near. Let me explain. A lot of you will remember this too. When Big E was brought to the main roster and was aligned with AJ Lee and Dolph Ziggler, all Big E would do is just stand there with his arms folded and do nothing. He was a potted plant, had no personality whatsoever. If you go back to the DTKC archive, because our entire archive is available, people don't know that, you'll remember Kevin and I had numerous conversations back then because we would start to see cell phone footage. Now, remember, at that time, you didn't have, TikTok and all these people streaming 30-second clips, or you had Tout probably. Everybody remember Tout? But you didn't see clips like you do now. And even backstage at that time with Vince and the regime, Vince wasn't too thrilled about wrestlers putting their own home video footage online. Remember the most extreme example lately, Tama Tonga, standing before SmackDown in the entranceway, shoots a few seconds of video from far away. You couldn't even realize who was in the ring, and he got suspended. He got fined for, at least fined for shooting a few seconds because he was in the building. We don't do that. And everybody's like, what are you talking about? You got WWE Unreal. What the fuck? He didn't do anything wrong. But back then, we would see footage of Big E in the back, in the parking lot, hanging out with various wrestlers. And he'd be the funniest man in the room. He'd have the most charisma. He would make people laugh. The guy had so much of a personality. And Kevin and I would say repeatedly, if they allow Big E to be a little bit of himself on the TV, that fucking guy will be beloved and over like a motherfucker. And it took a long time, obviously. He had a little emotion when Dolph Ziggler won the belt, if you remember. But when they did the New Day and they let Big E be a little bit more of, himself, people saw the charisma. They seen the character. They seen everything why, people would hear these stories like, oh my God, he's one of the funniest, most likable people. And it finally came across on TV. Solo Sikoa is similar in that, because even when he was in MLW, people used to say, this guy's a fucking character. Even when he was NXT, there'd be people behind the scenes that would just talk about his personality, his character, how funny he is, and just make people crack up laughing for no reason. And, even you had little moments where you kind of saw a little bit of him, but they never put it out on TV. Then he got brought up to the main roster, and what was he doing? He was in the bloodline, and he would say nothing. He would say nothing. Do you remember the time where he just looked at the Ulafala? Didn't say nothing, just looked at it, and the crowd was chanting, holy shit. That's how serious they had Solo. Meanwhile, Solo doing a serious character on TV, behind the scenes, people are fucking hysterical about this guy. What you see is actually an extension of him. So now it's starting to come off on TV. The problem is the gimmick he had before left people confused. I don't trust this guy. I don't trust him, man. He's good. No. The way this bloodline stuff is, he's going to ultimately turn. And yeah, I think he does. When? I have no idea. But I think tonight it became more clear. And I think tonight that charisma part of Solo is going to come out even more. And it's going to be even easier because the fans will now start to buy in as far as Solo as a babyface. No, I don't think he gets on the level of Sammy Uso. Sammy that took a life of its own. I don't think you'll ever be able to recreate that with anybody else. But Solo Sikoa, the fans are going to cheer for this guy. And him aligned with LA Knight. And, we got to see what happens with Royce Keys. I kind of feel this might be where they're going with Survivor Series. Survivor Series is what? 3 months away. And 3 months will get here quicker than you think. Much quicker than you think. So could this be ultimately where they're going with Survivor Series? Could be. Could be. So, all right. Let us continue with a little bit of Raw recap. So we got into the lucha matches. Lyra Vaquer. I love her accent. She let everybody know tonight, not that she's smart, she's smirked. I am smirked. She's going to take out Saul. And she's going to work her way to get back the title that she should never have lost. Nope. Saul Ruca defeats Lyra Vaquer with the Soul Snatcher. I said it before. I saw a few people on the chat saying the same thing. Best match that Saul Ruca has had since she's been on the main roster. Everything clicked tonight. Even the designed faux pas. When Lyra hit the beautiful neck breaker against the top rope, where if you really look at it, it kind of looked like fun. Kind of like, hey, I cracked my back. I mean, it didn't look like it hurt. Even when she tripped up Saul Ruca. Everything clicked tonight. And let me tell you something. I think a Saul Ruca, Lyra Vaquer rematch should happen. I enjoyed this match tremendously. I love, Michael Cole once again bringing up the Lita comparisons. We've said that since day one. We just talked about it even yesterday. It would have been nice if Lita could have been a little bit more active to see Lita give a little bit of endorsement on Saul Ruca. But this match was tremendous tonight. I'm very comfortable with Saul Ruca. A lot of you have said, oh, WWE's lost faith, and you've asked me, and I've always felt no. Just like last week, you guys asked me, when do I think Blake Monroe's going to have her first match on the main roster? And I said, give it a week or two. This week, she's having it. My condolences for Julia, but she's having it this week. I'm not concerned with Sol Ruca whatsoever. She is a future superstar on that company. Not only does she have to get acclimated to the main roster, the wrestlers who have been on the main roster have to get acclimated with Sol Ruca. That's what happens. And there is growing pains. I remember LA Knight, and a lot of you remember this. When LA Knight first went to the main roster, how many times did he do that move where he would run up to the middle rope and hit the suplex? And he would slip. Or he would try to jump to the top rope, and he'd slip. It happened multiple times. And the timing was off. Sometimes, shit happens, but you slowly saw LA Knight get really polished. And there's no exact moment, but before you knew it, that was it. That was it. There was no more concerns about his in-ring work. So Sol Ruca, I'm confident about. Lyra Vaquer, I don't know where you go from here. What happens with Bayley? Bayley was mentioned tonight. We have not seen her recently. She made the appearance in the house show, whatever. People are trying to find any little news on Bayley and trying to make it stick to something pertinent. The viral story with Dave Meltzer last week was one of the most retarded things in recent memory. But the thing is, we don't know what Bayley's future is. But I will say this. Turning Lyra heel was great. She is killing it with this character. I don't know exactly what she's supposed to be suffering from to look like this, but I like it. But the thing is, if she is going to be the sacrificial heel to lose matches, it's kind of like what they did with Nia Jax for a while, if people remember. Nia Jax was the default heel that would do the jobs, and it used to always be someone that would pick her up, like whether it was Bianca Belair hitting her finisher on Nia Jax, or you always had to use your strength to pick her up and oh my God, she picked her up. Nia Jax for a while was the de facto person to lose as a heel. And I kind of feel that this might be what they've maybe not intentionally backed into, but I'd like to see a clear path with Lyra Vaquer getting victories. The problem is against who? Against who? Is she going to start defeating Io Sky? I don't think so. Can she get a random win here and there? Of course. She get a random win against anybody. But it doesn't feel like this is going to build to anything. She's going to be a complainer that, looks a little bit cracky and, is got a different attitude now, and then puts up phenomenal matchup and gets the shit end of the stick. That's the only thing I'm concerned about it, is it doesn't feel like this was going to build momentum to something bigger. It kind of feels like she was filling a role, if that kind of makes sense to anybody. That's what it feels like to me, that Lyra Vaquer was filling a role that WWE felt they needed. And I think they just got kind of tired of Roxanne Perez being the default loser on the heel side of things. But I really enjoyed that match tonight. They killed it. They killed it. Props to both women, but Sol Ruca gets the victory. Jimmy and Jay bump into Jacob Fatu in the back, and this would continue some very interesting stuff that happened with Jacob Fatu tonight. Jimmy and Jacob bump into Jacob Fatu. Jay is celebrating that Solo's being delivered back to the bloodline today. Jacob questions Jay, saying, you're acting like you did this all by yourself. So Jay looks at Jacob and says, who's the punk ass now? And walks off. And quite honestly, if you look at Jacob, he looks like a goof there. Didn't do anything about it, just stood there and took it. Like a cuck. That's what Jacob Fatu looked like. But that obviously would be important later on when Roman Reigns had a little interaction with Jacob Fatu. We talked about the Bron Oba stuff earlier. We talked about the other matches. Chad Gable defeating Rey Mysterio. Again, this was off the hook, and you watch it back, the crowd ate this shit up. I mean, these two guys had tremendous chemistry. Chad Gable, I still can't stand the intro music. I hate his theme song. It sounds like a generic 1990s WCW song. It even sounds like the same fucking woman singing it. I don't like the song. I get why they needed to change it, but man, if you notice even Stephanie Vaquer's music, this is 2 weeks in a row. I don't know if anybody picked up on it. And if you think I'm making it up, go back and watch the beginning of Raw tonight and you'll see it clear as day. When Stephanie Vaquer's music, when her entrance first starts and you hear a little bit of the sound effects in the first couple of, like chords of her theme, no reaction. And then once it bangs in and you see her name on the screen, then everybody pops. They, for some reason, changed her theme music, and I still think it's awful. She had a banger of a theme. I don't know why they changed it. I'm not aware of any copyright issues or over-the-top paying royalties or anything like that. I don't know what the purpose was, but this song still, in my opinion, is not clicked. And I wish WWE would fucking go back to it. I can't stand it. But getting back to Chad Gable, put on a powerful match tonight. You remember when Penta first won the Intercontinental Championship. Ray, it would be an honor to face you for this title. They did the exact same thing with Chad Gable. Chad Gable would squeak out a victory, and an awesome sign of respect afterwards. Ray took Chad Gable's belt, looked at it, and then wrapped it around Chad Gable's waist. No, it wasn't a passing of the torch. I saw some people out there trying to put that shit over. No, Ray's not passing the torch to Chad Gable. No. But this was a tremendous match, and it felt like Rey was giving back a little bit. If you notice Rey Mysterio Raw matches these days, he's giving back to certain people. It's not just, hey, Rey, could you work Raw tonight? He put on a performance with Ethan Page, put on a performance with Chad Gable. Rey is putting on individual performances that the other person, whether in victory or in defeat, comes out a little bit better because of it. It does feel like Rey is giving back a little bit, not just simply filling a spot on Monday Night Raw. And obviously his career is winding down. When TKO was, doing the pay cut things, I don't know why 2 days ago, my sources tell me that TKO offered a 50% pay cut to New Day. I thought that was fucking common knowledge like 3 months ago. But the thing is, Rey was one of the names that we heard that WWE restructured his contract. That they're not using Rey on the main roster anywhere near that they thought that they were. And you got to understand too, yes, TKO at the end of the day is the one that owns everything. But, a lot of these contracts that were signed before TKO came in or right as TKO came in, I'm sure some of them did not expect some wrestlers to wrestle so little for whatever reason. That's why you look at, I'm sure they probably thought that New Day, Hall of Fame, arguably the top or top two or top three tag teams in the last 25 years. Of course, they're going to have major roles. And outside of the Big E, the turn on Big E and, doing a little bit of a heel run, it started fizzling out. And you put Grayson Waller with them, and people still to this day don't even understand why that came about. And you realize TKO is like, why are we paying this kind of money? And then you had Sheamus. And Sheamus, I get it. Stand by your guns, never accept less. And as much as I like Sheamus, I say to myself, motherfucker, you didn't even wrestle in 2026. You took fucking pay for 9 months. Tell me you didn't get paid for 2026, and then I'll stick up for you 1,000 times over. But to me, he comes off as like a milquetoast redheaded Karen. I'm just being honest. I don't dislike Sheamus at all. But I don't think you have that much of a ground to stand on when you fucking haven't worked a match yet in 2026. How dare you renegotiate my contract? I request a release. I shall not accept anything less. Motherfucker, you ain't doing nothing. You ain't doing nothing. You know, you got married. Congratulations. What are you doing? What are you doing? Cameos? OnlyFans? Like, how are you making money? You know, I'm not trying to be a dick, but I'm just saying, like, people like immediately, you know, want to take a specific side, but you start narrowing it down. That's why I think even with Seth Rollins, you know, I get it. He's one of the top stars in the company, but when you understand the millions that he's paid, you know, when does TKO, in a business standpoint, look at this and say, hey, wait a minute. He's wrestled 24 matches the last 3 years. You know, we're paying him this. Like, we could fucking pay 5 other people that kind of money. And if we're being honest, Seth Rollins hasn't been on since SummerSlam. And some people feel that 2 of the last 3 Raws have been the best Raws of the year. I'm not saying that Seth Rollins hurt Raw in any way, but it goes to show you that Raw can carry on without him. I don't know for how long, but it carries on without him, just like SmackDown. SmackDown, you know, this past week was tremendous. And you saw the little testing that they're doing for some people that don't make the final cut. You know, you get the bonus footage. It's kind of like when you used to get DVDs and, you know, as a bonus, you get deleted scenes. You know, the scene just didn't make the cut, so we deleted it. Here for WWE, we don't delete the scene. We throw it on YouTube and we tell people logistical reasons. With all due respect to PW Insider, you guys saw it. Paige's segment was cut for SmackDown for logistical reasons. The fuck says that? It's just like when Dave Meltzer spoke to a woman. Yes, breaking news. He spoke to a woman last year in WWE when Brock Lesnar returned, setting up WrestlePalooza. And that person was, what was it? Quietly disturbed? No, quietly disgusted. I have never talked to anybody in my entire life and said, what do you think about Trump being president? What do you think about Brock Lesnar returning? What do you think about Vince McMahon? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? I'm quietly disgusted. And be like, what are you trying to be like Bob Backlund with your fucking language? Quietly disgusted? Privately no, it was privately disgusted. Who talks like that? Why doesn't PW just say time constraints? Because they don't know the clear-cut answer. When you use words you don't normally hear, logistical reasons. What the fuck does that mean, logistical reasons? You know, that could mean 1,000 things. That's their way of saying, you know, we're not sure if they cut it for time constraints or maybe they just recorded a whole bunch of stuff and they put it on YouTube as bonuses and it just, you know, couldn't fit because they just felt it wasn't important enough. No, they'll just write logistical reasons. When you see people use words they don't normally use, they're trying to find a word, and they're probably going on AI to do it. Hey, AI, I can't say time constraints. What's a word that I could say that could be cloudy as fuck, but it'll be enough where I kind of am right even though I don't have an answer, and AI says, use logistical reasons. Bingo. When you see words not normally used, they don't know. And listen, I understand a lot of these journalists work hard. And I get it. A lot of them are legit. I've praised Mike Johnson. I know. I'm fine. I don't have a fever. But that doesn't mean that people don't fucking play on words and twist shit around. No one is 100% honest out there. No one is an altar boy in journalism when it comes to wrestling stuff. No one is fucking completely honest. They want to put a story out there. They don't know how to put it out there without being called out for bullshit, so they use cloudy words. That's what people do. Plain and simple. So anyway, we get the finish of Raw tonight. Roman Reigns comes out with Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu was the wild card of this, even though I didn't like the interaction with Jacob Fatu and Sikoa, and I'll tell you why. Roman comes out there with Jacob Fatu. They bring Solo Sikoa out. And we see a little recap of a lot of Solo Sikoa stuff from the past. And Roman gets on the mic and looks at Solo and he says about the crowd, he says, they may think it's funny. Do you think it's funny? And Solo Sikoa is not saying anything. And Roman looks at Solo, the chain, the sunglasses. Oh, I see you're wearing a John Mayer. Takes the sunglasses, smashes them, steps on them, crushes them. Then he hits a cheap shot to Solo Sikoa, Roman Reigns. And out of nowhere, here comes Jacob Fatu. He locks the tongue and death grip on Solo Sikoa. Fans are chanting for Solo a little bit. Remember, they're still into Jacob Fatu as well. So fans right now are just confused, like, am I supposed to cheer this, jeer it? Like, what am I supposed to do? So they're kind of like in the middle with this. And Jacob's doing what he's doing. And then Roman Reigns screams, enough, enough. And Solo is laid out and Roman is mocking him. He's not so funny now, is he? And then he looks at Jacob Fatu. And the way it came across to me, maybe you guys feel differently, but the way it came across to me on TV is that Roman was not completely satisfied with what Jacob Fatu did. Almost like a bitch slap. Like, you know, not enough. Like, it felt like Roman was criticizing Jacob Fatu a little bit. Then it gets better. Roman gets on the mic and now says that the Usos are his captains. And now we get some more Ulafalas. You know, now everybody's got a fucking necklace. Oba Femi's got a necklace. Roman Reigns has one. The Usos have them now. You know, like the new prop is necklaces. So Roman takes out a pair of necklaces and he puts it over Jimmy. He puts it over Jay. They are now his captains. They are made men. If you have a problem with them, you have a problem with me. And as this is going on, I'm looking at Jacob Fatu. And I'm saying to myself, you ain't getting nothing. You ain't getting nothing. It's kind of like if you have a house with 3 dogs. You have a house with 3 dogs, and you got a box of biscuits in front of you, and you're like, hey, Bella, here's a biscuit. Hey, Bruno, here's a biscuit. And meanwhile, there's fucking, I don't know, we'll call the other one Jonathan. Like, we have another dog in the background, Jonathan. And you just like completely ignore him. Like, hey, Bella, you want another biscuit? Bruno, here's another biscuit. And Jonathan's there like, what about me? What about Jacob's just standing there. He get nothing. Nothing for you, Jacob. You're not a captain. You're nothing. He's just standing there. Again, cuck. If we're being honest, Jacob looks a little bit like a cuck. So he's standing there and nothing is going on. And now LA Knight, his music hits. He goes right after the Usos. Big mistake. Jacob Fatu hits LA Knight with a cheap shot. And then Roman goes up to Jacob Fatu again. And now it's clear as day. The hell was that? And now you feel like he's mocking Jacob like, you know, tongue and death grip, okay, Solo Sikoa, fine. But that was like a bitch slap. Like, that's it? Like, Roman was not pleased with Jacob Fatu. So now Roman goes to set up for a Superman punch. And Roman is mocking Solo for going with LA Knight. And he says, you know, you went for him over the family? So Roman nails LA Knight. They pick up Solo Sikoa, and Roman is mocking Solo like, you did this over family? And the Usos are holding up LA Knight. You know what to do, Solo. You know what you got to do. They want Solo to hit his Samoan spike to LA Knight. LA Knight is standing there half conscious. Usos are holding him up. Roman is commanding Solo, you know, your father's watching. You're here to serve your family. You're here to serve. And Jay, you know what you got to do. You know what you got to do. And Solo looks at LA Knight. He's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He's sorry for what he's about to do. Picks up the spike, turns around, does his yelp like he always does, and fucking spikes Roman Reigns. And the Usos are just shocked to shit. Meanwhile, Jacob Fatu's in the corner. He doesn't have his hands up. He's just standing there watching all of this. And now, you know, fans are chanting for Solo. And now you got LA Knight, you know, getting chants. And, you know, Jacob refuses to lay out LA Knight. And Roman gets his, you know, gets a resurgence. And Roman now is going to set up LA Knight with a Superman punch. And somehow LA Knight turns it into a BFT. Not only did Solo Sikoa nail Roman Reigns with the Samoan spike, now you have LA Knight hitting blunt force trauma to Roman Reigns. Jacob Fatu again does nothing. Here's what I didn't like about the Solo stuff. You had Jacob Fatu with the tongue and death grip on Solo for a decent amount of time earlier. And later on, after Solo spiked Roman and LA Knight BFT'd Roman, they leave the ring. And Solo walks right past Jacob Fatu. And I'm saying to myself in storyline, Solo, you remember what this motherfucker just did to you? Like, he just walking by like, you know, he did what he wanted to do with Roman and didn't even pay no mind to Jacob Fatu. That was the only part I didn't like about it. But they walk off and we go off the air. So now, you know, we're probably going to see a match set up, the Usos versus LA Knight and Solo Sikoa. Kind of feel that could be the main event for next week. Could be the main event for next week. And then Jacob Fatu may have to make some type of a decision. He may get involved in the match. Remember, Roman is not on next week. So this is probably where they're leading with this. That's kind of where I feel this is going. But I'll be honest with you. I thought tonight's Raw was excellent. It was solid. It was a solid Raw. Very manageable with time, about 2.5 hours with commercials. I enjoyed it very much. I don't know what you guys felt, but I enjoyed it a lot. So, all right. We could start bringing this home. We're a little under 2 hours. We still got a little bit of time. Before we get into a couple other tidbits of news, I'm just going through. Oh, shit. Man, I'm kind of mad. I didn't say this right at the beginning of the show, but we did talk about it at the beginning of last night's show. Some positive news to report. Yesterday, we opened up and we talked very early on about Slick, the Doctor of Style. He was rushed to a hospital over the weekend, had a massive heart attack. They found blockage in his arteries, and they had to do open heart surgery. I know for a lot of you out there, that hits home. It hits home for me because of my mother and my father. I know what that's like. I've seen the scar. It's awful. And they had to do that with Slick this weekend. People that are friendly with him and keep in communication with him have posted updates over the last 24 hours saying that his surgery was a success and he's resting comfortably. Now, the way things are these days, if everything goes well, I could see him going home sometime this week. As long as there's no complications, as long as they didn't have to do any valve surgery, you know, I think he goes home in short order. But still, you know, he is up there in age. And when you hear heart attack, you know, you could only imagine how close he could have been to the Widowmaker. So some good news to report tonight that, you know, Slick is resting comfortably and has already undergone the heart surgery. So prayers go out to him, man. One guy that I don't think there's ever a time that I disliked him. I really mean that. I mean, his theme was tremendous back in the day. That was one of the rare themes I wouldn't mind blasting in my car. Jive Soul Bro. That was one I actually could tolerate. All right. This was interesting. We were talking last week that WWE is going to be doing a house show in Hawaii on October 16th. They sold 7,000 tickets in like a couple of days. They sold so many tickets that they have now added a second house show in Hawaii. If you go on Ticketmaster, these tickets are not cheap. I mean, these tickets are ranging anywhere from like $80 to like $1,000. But WWE hasn't gone to Hawaii in a very long time. And listen, say what you want about the current product. Say what you want about creative. When you see certain areas selling out like this, yeah, WWE hasn't been there in ages. So that's one of the reasons why it sold so quickly. But when you see that many tickets going and they add a second show in a matter of a couple of days, and the tickets go on sale this Friday, they're going to make some pretty good coin. And these are house shows. It's not a premium live event. It's not a Raw. It's not a SmackDown. Now, from what I figured out, there's a 6-hour time difference because tickets go on sale Friday. Actually, yeah, it's a 6-hour time difference. Tickets go on sale Friday at 10 a.m. Hawaii time, Hawaii Standard Time. 10 a.m. Hawaii time is 4 p.m. in New York. 6 hours. You might remember somebody super chatted me the other day and said, could WWE get away with a premium live event in Hawaii? And I said, yes. You could do it on a Sunday afternoon. You could absolutely do a premium live event. I could picture it on the island on a Sunday afternoon at like 1, 2 o'clock. And that would be 7, 8 o'clock in New York. So on a Sunday afternoon, you live in Hawaii or you're there on vacation, Sunday afternoon, WWE's going to have a premium live event, 1 p.m. Why not? In Italy, trust me, in Italy, they absolutely would have gone to a premium live event if it would have added like 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's just that some areas in Italy, they close all the businesses. I don't know what areas still do that, but for those that don't know, in my father's hometown, I don't know if it's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but like for like 2 hours, the whole town closes all the businesses and they take a nap or they just take it easy, whatever it is. I know it's changed a little bit over the years, but my father used to say that back when he was a kid. He'd be working like stocking shelves in a grocery store, and then at 1 o'clock, yeah, we got to close for 2 hours, and people would just go to sleep, take a nap. Just weird, but yeah, I think Hawaii, 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday, it's like a baseball game. Why wouldn't you go to an event in the early afternoon? I would. So that's what they're doing for Hawaii, for anybody who's interested. So, all right, let me get into a couple of super shout-outs. We still got to talk about Lance. We used to call him Anoy. How many of you out there back in the day used to say their last name is Anoy? I used to do that even with Afa and Sika. Anoy. Afa Anoy. It took a lot of years for me to change it to Anoahi. So we got to talk about Lance Anoahi. Very interesting development from the bloodline to the retirement line. So we'll talk about him. And got a few other things. That's probably close to the end. I mean, Wednesday we're going to do predictions for Ring of Honor and for TNA. They both have pay-per-views this weekend, so we'll do it on Wednesday. There's also an interesting name that TNA is looking to sign, and when I'm going to definitely give you a doppelganger for this person. You're going to look at them side by side. You'll be like, yeah, they do look like brothers. I don't want to say who it is, but you'll get a kick out of it. So, but first, let's get into a couple of super shout-outs. And I appreciate all of you that give me a little feedback for the shows and how to handle things with content. And a lot of you were telling me that a lot of other shows, like you'll just do like a whole bunch of like super chats and shout outs like at the very end of the show. Like you just bunch them all together. And I think we may start doing that. It's a nice format so everybody gets discussed around the same time. So I'd like to open it up with Bobby Means. And he says, I think what we're seeing is the demise of the bloodline, but this could be leading towards Jacob Fatu leaving the group. War Games is setting up to be very interesting. Jacob Fatu is obviously the wild card here. The thing is, though, is, you got Roman and the Usos. And how long is that going to be? Remember what I said about Seth Rollins. I would not be surprised if Jacob Fatu were to leave the group and Jacob Fatu, let's say, joins up with Royce Keys and LA Knight and Solo Sikoa. I mean, I'm still worried about the MFTs. I mean, I don't know how long they're going to remain in WWE, but you kind of feel like the MFTs somehow have to have something to do with this, right? I mean, don't you think? I mean, Zilla Fatu, I don't believe should go to the main roster this quickly. He's got to stay in NXT for a while. Kind of go the same path to Solo Sikoa as we said on Sunday. But the thing is, if you go to War Games and it's just Roman and the Usos, I could see Seth Rollins filling that spot. We had CM Punk fill a spot with the Bloodline in the past. Everybody remember when they all posed at ringside, their fingers in the air? You had Drew McIntyre align with the Judgment Day for War Games. The handshake with Rhea Ripley, and then there was nothing after that. The problem is, the way it came off today, Roman and the Usos are heels. I mean, if you put Seth in that, I don't know. I'm just not feeling that yet. But Jacob Fatu absolutely could be a wild card. Could be a wild card in this. And it kind of feels like he's going to have to make a decision. But the problem is, think about the whole storyline with Roman. We brought you in here. We helped you feed your family. We did this. We did that. And, he's not a made guy. Roman made the Usos tonight, but he didn't make Jacob. That's why we all think, okay, maybe Jacob ultimately will be out of this group. But the thing is, are they going to make him leave the Bloodline just so as the lineups are a little more even? Or is it going to make sense in a story? Are they going to keep cucking Jacob Fatu? Is this what we're going to get? Jacob Fatu is kind of like a werewolf, but he's a werewolf that thinks he's being fed and taken care of by his owner. But meanwhile, the owner leaves him out, chained to his leg at night in the rain, in a cold house outside the house. And the owner is in the house with a fireplace eating a steak dinner. And werewolf Fatu is outside. Hey, I got a house. Look, I got my own house. But you look and there's like a can of food, half dry, just in the sun, like during the day, like he thinks he's being taken care of, but he's being treated like shit. Do the fans really want to see that? I don't know if I really want to see that. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go with this. Tyrese Valeriano says, Haku is Paul Ellering in sheep's clothing. Yeah, I mean, listen, I've said this yesterday too. I like Haku. I've always been a fan of Haku. He brings back memories for a lot of different reasons. Many of you will remember the infamous reason when he set up, when he was going to hit Andre. That's the same pose my father had on me before he kicked my ass when I had a bad report card. And I'm not kidding. My father literally lined up like this, and I said to myself, oh shit, he's positioned like Haku. And he beat me up. But the thing is, to me, it's like a bucket list. We want to give a little bone to Haku. He hasn't been on TV for a while. The MFTs need some type of prop next to them. The MFTs give me the same vibes as the Wyatt Six did with the tag titles and others. They put it on them temporarily because someone else is going to win it. The MFTs, in my honest opinion, I have nothing personal against them, but they're just buying time. This is nothing. Haku is only there as a prop for the MFTs. He's not there because WWE suddenly thought, hey, we can, maybe make some money together. Hey, it'd be nice, a little nostalgia. I think because he's family. That's the only reason why he's out there. And I honestly think most people don't care. WWE didn't care about Haku for too long. It's sometimes you see like WWE bring back a legend. maybe they're not necessarily Hall of Famer territory, but they're a legend. People that we hadn't seen in 20, 30 years. And you get very little response to it. And then you realize maybe WWE should have, I'll give you one. I'll give you one right now. Dan Spivey. I was always a fan of Dan Spivey. Waylon Mercy shit fucking off the hook. But I still liked him even when he was wearing similar attire like Hulk Hogan in 85 when he was in the WWF. Dangerous Dan Spivey. Loved his shit in WCW as well. WWE didn't say 2 words about Dan Spivey for fucking decades. Now he sits ringside, he's coming out with a book or this and that, and WWE, oh look, it's Dan Spivey, WWE, legend incident or whatever. And fans act like they could care less. It's not Dan Spivey's fault. It's not that he's not a Hall of Famer. It's that WWE didn't fucking pay attention to him for decades. There's other people, women from the Attitude Era, others that they get no reaction, and people that are longtime fans are a little baffled, like, oh my God, no love? And then you realize WWE paid no mind to them for too long. And people just forgot about them. So Haku is back. Oh, that's nice. What's he doing? Really? He's only there because the MFTs are not strong enough as far as credibility-wise. They wrestle great, Tamatonga especially. But as far as stature goes in the WWE, no, this is temporary. Haku, and listen, I know this sounds a little cold and maybe somewhat disrespectful, but even Paul Ellering. My problem with Paul Ellering, with the Authors of Pain, the second time around, and the Final Testament, is he came off like, how do I say this the right way? He came off like a trophy. Like the people in the group were walking around with a trophy. Something nostalgia. I never got the vibe in storyline that Paul Heyman was words of wisdom, mentoring, tutoring, guiding them. You felt that with Paul Heyman. You felt that with other managers. You felt that with Gary Hart. You felt that with Bobby Heenan. You felt it with others. Mr. Fuji, maybe not, but still. My point is, Paul Ellering, he would just stand there. And just stand there. He'd just stand there. And he would stand there. And, don't get me wrong, Paul Ellering, behind the scenes, would, I don't want to say mentor, but would talk and try to guide AOP and Cross and everybody else, and always was there. But as far as an on-camera person, he just looked like an elderly man that they wanted to put on TV because he's the legendary manager for the Road Warriors. There was a time where it just didn't feel like he wasn't a manager anymore. He was just a prop with the group. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people felt that way too. It didn't feel like a Hall of Famer, larger-than-life, former manager of the Road Warriors. First time around with AOP, he was so much more active. This time around, like nothing. I would be confused sometimes, like, why is he in this group? Did he win an auction or something? Is there some, Make-A-Wish element to this? I'm saying this sarcastically, like to this day. So, Haku gives me the same vibe. Do I think he's suddenly mentoring the MFTs? You ain't going to do a fucking good job of it when they're released in a couple of months. That's my deal. So, Jermaine Reyes, after watching Raw tonight, early prediction for War Games. Roman Reigns, the Usos, and Seth Rollins versus Solo Sikoa, LA Knight, Jacob Fatu, and Zilla Fatu. I don't think Zilla should get promoted this quickly. Zilla Fatu is good. And I thought his debut on NXT was fine. I saw the video of his family too. I thought it was great. But I just don't think, I think he's got to become somewhat of a household name amongst NXT fans and WWE fans online, that, or, just hearing about him in MLW and news rumors and scoops. You know, that's all fine and everything, but there is a majority of people out there have not seen a Zilla Fatu match yet. I think it's way too soon to incorporate him 3 months in. I just don't think it'll happen. I think we very well could end up seeing Royce Keys in that spot. I kind of think Royce Keys might get that spot. I hope that WWE is planning something bigger for Royce Keys. You know, I don't think this is... Listen, I'm waiting for the first jackass online to say, my sources tell me that the reason why WWE took Royce Keys off of TV is because currently they have nothing for him. And that could end up being right. But that's obviously people just pulling at straws, hoping that they pulled the biggest straw. That's just grasping for straws. We don't know. And I personally don't think WWE would sour on Royce Keys this quickly. Fans actually had a lot of emotion last week when Solo Sikoa cut his promo and brought up what Jacob Fatu did to Royce Keys. Crowd responded. And I thought that was pretty cool. So I kind of think Royce Keys may be the one involved with this. Shout out to Havili from Australia. He was talking about some comments, and he thinks that Mason Rook, Cruz Montana, or Grayson Waller to take the title from Tony D'Angelo. I don't think Mason Rook is gonna be in line to become the champion anytime soon. I'm sorry for bringing this up, but I still got to say it. If anybody remembers Spaceballs, John Candy is one of my favorite comedians growing up. I fucking loved his shit from Stripes to Spaceballs to everything else he did. That guy died way too young, all right? But if you look at John Candy, all right, you look at his outfit, you see Barf, all right? I truthfully believe fucking Mason Rook looks like his son. Hey, to me, he looks like John Candy. I don't care how agile he is. I don't care, you know, how great wrestling ability. At the end of the day, I don't see him being a poster child as the leader of NXT. I just don't see it. I'm just being honest. Cruz Montana, listen, it's still a name I got to get used to. Even the name Andy Summers, which we'll talk about Wednesday, that's a trademark. It's spelled A-N-D-I. So now I'm thinking, you know, to me, it sounds like it's kind of like a cross between a country music star and a fucking blonde porn actress. Andy Summers. Like, I just picture like Andy Summers in Deep Throat 9. It just sounds like a bad name. And Cruz Montana, it sounds like a name from Grand Theft Auto. I don't care if it has to do with your father. I don't care if it has to do with a sick relative. I don't care if it was a pet. I don't care if it's somebody you rescued in a fire. I don't care if it's somebody that raised you when you were 3. I don't care if it's somebody that donated their kidney so you could live. I don't care if they fucking raised you since you were a fucking child. This is entertainment television. These are people playing characters. I don't think that movie producers and TV shows should be telling actors and actresses that they hire, hey, you pick your name. You pick your name. The story is touching. And I'm a huge fan of Mike Santana. To me, that sounds like a name from Grand Theft Auto. It sounds like a name from Grand Theft Auto. Hey, where is Cruz Montana? Like, I just can't buy into it. Cruz Montana. I don't care the inspiration story behind it. Trust me, if I worked for some entertainment outlet and they said out there you could choose any name you want and you could pay tribute to your family, I would come up with such an awful name. But it's heartfelt to me. But as far as TV goes, can you just imagine like you have a big main event and you have Cruz Montana? Like, I'm sorry. And listen, I'm probably eating my words because a lot of you that go back to my hotline days, when Edge first made his debut in the WWF, somebody asked me, do you ever see this guy being heavyweight champion? And I said, maybe with a name change. I admit it. I said this back when he debuted, when he was fucking in the subways, sitting on the fucking floor, then running around like he's got some type of bipolar issue. Remember Edge when he would just run around and just be constipated and it'd be the summertime and he's wearing the fucking leather jacket, the leather fucking, the full jacket. I said, I can't picture one day Howard Finkel or somebody saying, your new World Wrestling Federation heavyweight champion, Edge. I just never thought it. Yes, I ate my words. I said that about Test. I just can't picture one day, your new World Wrestling Entertainment heavyweight champion, Test. Just never felt it. Cruz Montana sounds like a Grand Theft Auto name. I really sincerely love the story behind the name. But I don't think that WWE should be having wrestlers pick names because it feels, there's a personal connection to it. It almost feels like that's fucked up. How could you criticize that? Don't you know it's about his father? Don't you know it's about this? How could you disrespect that? The feeling behind it. Every time he says the name, he's thinking about his dad. It's a job. It's a job. You want to think, tattoo his name somewhere. I'm not saying it to be a dick. I'm just saying, the name sucks. Cruz Montana sounds like Grand Theft Auto. Mason Rook? I mean, the name is okay, but you'd think they would change his look a little bit. It almost looks like a young Bastion Booger. With his outfit. Just being honest, man. So, honestly, Havili, I think Grayson Waller or Zilla Fatu will be a next NXT World Champion. I kind of think Grayson Waller might be the one. I think this is a case where we may see a four-way at NXT Heatwave. It might be Tony D defending against Cruz Montana, Grayson Waller, and Zilla Fatu. And don't forget what I said yesterday. WWE likes to play that dumb game where disqualification is really a no contest. Don't forget, my friends, NXT last Tuesday, what happened? Number one contenders match. Grayson Waller versus Cruz Montana. Winner of that match faces Tony D'Angelo at NXT Heatwave. What happened? Zilla Fatu made his debut, laid out Cruz Montana. Bell rings. In any logical world, bell rings, Cruz Montana wins by disqualification due to interference from Zilla Fatu. But Zilla Fatu, a few moments later, decides, let me fuck up Grayson Waller also. Because he fucks up Grayson Waller later on, suddenly it becomes a no contest. If you go on Wiki right now and you look at the lineup for NXT Heatwave, it still says Tony D'Angelo versus nobody. He's defending against someone. They clear cut. Zilla attacked Cruz Montana first. Cruz Montana won by DQ. He should have the title match. But because Zilla laid out Grayson Waller also, now it's a no contest. WWE does some dumb shit sometimes, and people give it a pass. But I kind of picture a four-way, and again, somebody's about to win, and maybe Grayson Waller throws their ass outside the ring and steals it. I think Tony D'Angelo's days as world champion are extremely numbered, and I do not see that guy going to the main roster. Nothing personal. I am the original Don. I am the Don. I am, Don Tony. I've had it. It's no jealousy or anything like that. I just don't picture him going to the main roster. What's his character? What's his gimmick? Why should the fans care about him? Why? Because he's passionate. He's got a lot of hair now, and he's a good wrestler, and he's a good guy outside of wrestling. That's not enough for the main roster. If you don't have a character, a gimmick, or something with it, what is he? What is he? What's his character that's going to click with the WWE Universe? Is there a catchphrase? Is there anything? When you really think about it, I think WWE has a problem with Tony D'Angelo. I think they created a gimmick that didn't have a good shelf life. It was very outdated. It was very corny. And then, they made him serious. And he's great, don't get me wrong. But there's no personality behind it. Just because you get intense is not enough. So, all right. I want to thank, again, Havili for your generosity, man. He sent, I don't know what Australia money is, but I do know when you convert it, it's still red. It is very, very generous of you, my friend. He sent a 100 spot that says, on the Stone Cold podcast, Lita said that the original plan was for a 3 pay-per-view series for the WWE Women's Championship with China. If China didn't leave, would she have dropped the title to Lita in the second match or the last match? And he thought on The Rock's debut in the WWE back in 1996. My thoughts on The Rock's debut in 96. Okay. First of all, as far as The Rock's debut, all right, I still remember the blue chipper, coming out with the blue and the fucking interesting hair. You saw him in Memphis, and The Rock had something. No one, listen, it's almost as ridiculous as people who have tried to say over the past bunch of years that in 1995, WWF knew that Triple H was going to be this megastar. That is bullshit. That is nonsense. Triple H, when he came in 1995, was a fucking long blonde-haired, prissy-looking, rich bitch that was still green, if we're being honest, but had a smug look to himself. So they made him Jean-Paul Levesque, like WCW, Jean-Pierre Lafitte. That's not a future World Wrestling Federation heavyweight champion. Jean-Paul Lafitte. Jean-Pierre Levesque, it's Hunter Hearst Helmsley. It's like, oh, look, 3 H's. Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Like, when I heard the name when it first came out, I thought of Leona Helmsley. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of that name from back in the day. That's what I thought of. Smug, rich bitch from Connecticut with long blonde hair, had some attractive women, jealousy, this and that. No one in their right mind thought this motherfucker would end up being where he is today, or even 15 years ago. When The Rock came in, he was Rocky Johnson's son. And Rocky Johnson, far cry from 1983, 84, but Rocky Johnson still, had a physique and, people still knew who he was and beloved without question. So, the idea of Rocky Johnson's son coming in, it was interesting to see, but I don't think anybody in their right mind ever thought that The Rock would turn into what he became. When you listen, this week is the anniversary of Die Rocky Die. And you saw the thumbnails for this week's history show. It's fascinating to go back to the 1996, that time frame, 97, around that era. And the fans had so much hatred for Rock. And it wasn't that they didn't think he was, talented and could possibly make a career out of it. They just felt it was so milquetoast and forced, and just the presentation was just, you're about to have the Attitude Era, and nothing about Rocky Maivia felt like Attitude Era. You know who had a similar debut? Kurt Angle. If you remember when Kurt Angle first debuted, he came in as an Olympic hero. He came in, very, very well liked, and he worked hard to get to the main roster. Vince McMahon saw him and said, you're a fucking heel. Oh, it's true. It's damn true. And Kurt Angle, just like that, came to the main roster and had this milquetoast babyface hero, and they did the opposite. Like, the hero got under people's skin so much that Vince McMahon knew from day one, you're a heel. And I think in 1996 with Rock as Rocky Maivia, because the Attitude Era wasn't full blown yet, I think it was more of a case where Vince McMahon didn't see that with Rocky Maivia. I don't think he looked at him and he's like, oh, those fans are going to hate this. Oh man, they're going to get so against you. No fucking way. They tried to push him as a blue chipper, and the more they did it, the more people got angry. And then Vince McMahon's like, fuck it. Fuck it. Let's put him with the nation and just let him talk a little bit. And the Die Rocky Die. To me, the Die Rocky Die was the turning point for Rock. So, as far as China and Lita goes, I'll say this. If China didn't leave, it was the right time, not to pass a torch, but it was the right time to give the helm to Lita. You got to go back to that time frame. I mean, at that time, you had China, you had Trish Stratus, you had Lita, you had Molly Holly, you had some women there that could actually work. But as far as big names go, China arguably was the biggest one of them all because she was the one that could roll with the big boys. And the fans got behind her. So, to have China pass it on to Lita, and then that evened the playing field a little bit more. And then you had Lita, and you had Trish, and you had Molly, and you had others. And then later on, you had the Beth Phoenix and Gail Kim, and there's trust me, they had a lot of talented women there. Oh, that sucks. I just dropped my fucking drink all over the place. Oh, that sucks. If you could see my leg right now, there's a whole bunch of black liquid. Black liquid. All right, hang on one second. If I don't wipe this off, I'm going to smell like an alcoholic and I'm going to have to take a shower. So, all right, I'm good. That just sucked, though. I'm not drunk, by the way. Not drunk. That just sucked. All right. You know what? I just realized it. I got about 500 eyeglass wipes over here. So when the show is over and I'm uploading it online, I'll just wipe myself down with eyeglass wipes. I'm not kidding. Black Sambuca is very, very sticky. I have stickiness all over myself right now. Look, you think I don't have stickiness? Look, it's like stuck to my finger, this. All right, but anyway, getting back to what I was saying. China, it's not that the playing field was uneven, but China was so above everyone else in the women's division, you had to even the playing field a little bit. So I think China would have dropped the belt to Lita. I think they would have gone 3. If it would have been a 3 pay-per-view, cycle, you always go 3. Even with best of 7. I mean, you look over the years at some of the greatest best of 7 series in wrestling history, almost all of them go 7. Like, you don't want to have someone win 4-0 or 4-2. Very, very rare to see somebody win 4-2. You did get that once in a while. If you really had no intention on making the feud somewhat legendary, you'd have someone win 3 straight or 4 straight and just dominate. I think people would get mad at that. Like, wow, you just gave us 4 of the same person winning. That other person had no shot whatsoever. Why did we do this? So there's a lot of meaning behind it. Having Lita and China go 3, I think would have been the right way to go. And you want to know something too? I think fans would have bought into it. I personally, what I would have done, I would have had China win the first 2. No, actually, wait, I take that back. It was best of 3. So China would have won the first one, and then it would have put a lot of pressure on Lita that the next match was a must win. And I think Lita would have won match number 2, and then match number 3, it would have went to Lita also. And that's where you go from here. And my hands are no longer sticky. They actually smell nice. They smell like lemons. So that's probably where I think it would have gone. So, thank you for that, Havili, and thank you again for your generosity, my friend. Oh, and by the way, Havili, I know people won't know why I'm saying this, but here is the ESPN thing I was telling you about. This is like, because he was asking me like on Patreon the other day, what did I think of the ESPN 30 for 30 series? And it was kind of funny because I have this literally on my desk. I'm like, I'm glad you asked. So this 30 for 30, like on Amazon, this shit's worth like crazy amount. I've never played these. There's like 40 discs in here. I never played it. I bought it and it just sat on the shelf. So this is brand new, this 30 for 30. It was interesting because he brought it up and I was like, oh, well, by the way, here you go. And look, here's the film guide. This is the film guide, the 30 for 30. Never opened it before. So thank you again, Havili. Much, much love to you. So, all right, we're going to start bringing this home. we'll talk about the TNA VIP deal that they're doing with their streaming service. I'll give you all the details on Wednesday. TNA is now offering a VIP deal. Actually, I'll give it to you now. You might be interested in this. I never realized that TNA never offered a streaming deal before where you could access every pay-per-view. I never realized that. They are now launching TNA Plus VIP. It's TNA Plus, not TNA and, like we don't mean plus as and. It's TNA Plus, the VIP version of it. It is $129 a year. But if you sign up now, you can get the whole year for $99.99. The monthly membership is $19.99 a month. So obviously they're trying to get an influx of cash now. Because if you take $20 a month, and you multiply that by 12, that's $240. If you sign up for a year, it's only $129. And if you sign up now, it's $99. Or if you wait until November around Thanksgiving and fucking Black Friday, they'll probably make it $79.99. But that is a pretty big grab. But when they announce the details, it's a little bit confusing, but this still might be attractive to some people out there. Listen, if you could buy a year for $100, that's $850 a month. That may not be a bad deal to have for a full year. But for the first time in TNA history, fans can access a monthly membership that includes every TNA pay-per-view in its history. And it also talks about that you will get an expanded portfolio of content. I don't know what this means, but it says you get full access to the TNA Plus content library, early access to select original programming, podcasts and upcoming shows, VIP-only content and experiences, merchandise offers, ticket opportunities, and exclusive member benefits. Yeah, this kind of sounds like WWE Club, which fizzled. You notice WWE Club suddenly, Club WWE it was. Suddenly, have you heard anything about it? Club WWE, I almost signed up for it back in the day. Once I realized what it is, it's like, you want me to pay money so I could get first dibs to like blow more money on you? No, thank you. I get the opportunity to be the jerk that spends money before everyone else. Like, oh, look, I get a piece of a mat. You know, that's their new thing. Even if when you get an on-location deal, they give you a plaque with a fucking piece of a mat in it. And you're like, oh, I wonder who fucking stepped on this. It's like literally this big. It's a piece of blue material. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I just found this. I just found this card. Anybody remember this card? This was MJF's rookie card, but there's like a piece of like his tights on it or something. And, you know, people like, what are you talking about? That's $500 on eBay. I looked it up and, you know, it might be $200. But the thing is like, what do I care about this? Am I supposed to go like this and like fondle it? Like, oh my God, it could have been touching its nuts. Like, why do I care about a piece of material? And you have people in on location like, oh, they said it today. If you sign up for Saturday night's main event, you could get a piece of the canvas. What do I care about that? Somebody's foot stepped on it? Oh my God. Like, I could see if fucking Pontiac Silverdome shut down and you could get a chair. Like, hey, this was the chair when Andre the Giant got slammed from Hogan. That's a little different. Like, I want a piece of the canvas? Like, what does that do for me? Like, I don't know who laid on it. You know, maybe nobody laid on it. Maybe it was the piece of the canvas under the ring. Like, what do I care? You know, with my luck, a fucking Danhausen midget was the one that laid on my piece. So TNA doing that merchandise stuff, I think that's stupid. You know, because they don't have this gigantic plethora of merchandise. Be early access to buy a fucking what? Like early access to buy an Indy Hartwell shirt. I'm not trying to shit on her. I'm just saying, like, you know, just offer the archive and that's it. Early access to this. Early access to exclusive content. Podcasts. All right. Anyway, we'll talk about AEW's ticket sales and the tickets distributed about All In on Wednesday. I do find it funny. If you want a good laugh, pay attention to some of those news sites out there, not the good ones, not the legit ones, but take a look at the ones who literally lick the balls of AEW. They now use the words tickets sold. For years, they would say tickets distributed. Now, we caught Meltzer doing it about a month ago, if you guys remember. We caught him doing that too. Now what they do is they no longer say tickets distributed, they just say tickets sold. And the fact is that WrestleTix, WrestleNomics, Economics, EcoBooster, fucking Ecosystem, none of these motherfuckers know when they look at dots on Ticketmaster's website, they have no idea how many of those dots were bought and how many of those dots were given away. They just count dots. That's what these motherfuckers do. And the thing is that now to make it seem like AEW has done better, they don't say tickets distributed, they say tickets sold. And by saying 38,000 tickets sold, it's like, ooh, okay. It's no longer 25,000 tickets sold and maybe 10,000 tickets distributed. Now it's 38,000 tickets sold. Not everybody's doing that, but pay attention to the sites that are doing that. Just Google AEW All In tickets sold, and they'll come right up. All right. Let's start bringing this home. I want to just quickly talk about one individual that many people thought was going to have a future in the WWE. And that is obviously Lance Anoa'i. All right. Lance Anoa'i was signed to a WWE developmental deal. Within a year, I think it was November, it was October, November of last year. Within a year, WWE released him. Still had time left on his contract. I think it was November of last year. WWE released him. Lance Anoa'i. Now, I don't know his exact age, but I would say he's about 35, 34. Maybe somebody could check his age for me. He's got to be mid-30s. Still very, very young guy. When he got released from WWE, he announced, this is not the way that I had planned, but time to get back to work. See you in 30 days, blah, 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 ba, 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 ba. That's what happened, November of 2025. So this is not even a year ago. All right, somebody said 34. So we'll go with 34. But it's about 34, 35. So anyway, today, Lance Anoa'i, he's about to celebrate his 17th year in professional wrestling. So he's been wrestling since he was very, very young, 16, 17 years old. So Lance Anoa'i in November was talking about back on the grind, didn't work out the way I wanted, see you in 30 days, blah, 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 blah. Now, today, he says this, quote, after almost 17 years in professional wrestling, I will be officially calling my time on my in-ring career in March of 2027. Once I reach that 17-year milestone. This journey has given me memories, friendships, battles, victories, losses, and experiences that I'll carry for the rest of my life. I'm incredibly grateful to everyone who has supported me, believed in me, shared a locker room with me, and helped me along the way. But now it's time to start preparing for a new chapter. For so many years, wrestling has taken up my weekends, my time, and countless moments away from the people I love the most. I've reached a point where I want to dedicate that time to my wife and my kids and be there for the moments that matter the most. I also want to say how proud I am of my family and everything they continue to do in this business. I love what they're building. I love being a part of it in any way I can, and I will always support them 100% in everything they do going forward. Walking away from something you've dedicated nearly 17 years of your life is not easy. Wrestling will always be a part of who I am, and I'll always love this business. Thank you, wrestling, for everything you've given me. 17 years, one hell of a ride, and in March of 2027, it's time for family. This isn't goodbye just yet, though. We'll have still a few months to go. So that's the reason why he is stepping away. I think it's pretty obvious, my friends, that once WWE let him go, and there really has been no feelers for the most part, like pertinent. I think he just probably started thinking more about family. It's like, hey, maybe this is not something that this is my future. This is what, I think it realizes now that I'm going to have to make my money in a different way. Now, the interesting thing is, doesn't mean he can't have a match once in a while. What I find very interesting about this, and I'm sure some of you probably thought about this today, is think about March of 2027. WrestleMania is in April. WrestleMania is in Saudi Arabia. So who gets the final match? Where does he... You understand what I'm saying? Like, this is not a WrestleMania weekend retirement, because I saw some people say, oh, go out WrestleMania weekend. I'm like, yeah, in front of Saudis? Like, if you really think... Now, yes, WWE's going to have watch parties and buildings everywhere, and I still think that there'll be some house shows going on, but trust me when I tell you, I don't think anybody's going to be standing in the crowd with a sign that says, I traveled 6,000 miles to watch WrestleMania on a movie screen. Like, I don't see anybody traveling to other states so they could watch WrestleMania on a movie screen. So you're not going to have house shows where you think you're going to get this influx of people like WrestleMania weekend. Like, if New York City is going to have a watch party for Mania at the theater in Madison Square Garden, who's going to come? New Yorkers and New Jerseyans. Maybe some people from Pennsylvania. That's it. You think so? I flew in from Ireland to go see the WrestleMania in the theater at the Madison Square Garden. Like, you're an idiot. For what? Like, why? You're like, why? Because fucking Dave LaGreca is going to be there hosting it? Like, why would you spend all that money traveling to watch it on a movie screen? So you're not going to have these big indie wrestling cards with thousands of people coming in for vacation or WrestleMania, and while they're there, Lance Anoa'i wrestles his retirement match. I have a feeling it's going to be something very, very intimate, something very, very small. I don't think it's going to be this big deal. And when you think of March of 2027, you say to yourself, who's going to be running shows? Think of Josh Barnett. He's done. He's done. So it's not even like I'll retire Josh Barnett. Like, you're not getting that fucking Bloodsport weekend. And just imagine if they tried to bring Bloodsport to fucking Saudi Arabia. I think the minute you just show up with the name of the fucking show, like, you're being held to the authorities. Bloodsport. No. Big no. No. So, Lance Anoa'i, for those who followed his career, whether it was MLW or other places, do you think that he would have broke through with the main roster? Do you think when you look at his look, you say to yourself, yeah, I could see that guy on the main roster? I'll be honest with you. There are certain members, going back to Manu. I think Manu is a great example. There are some members, I don't care how many Samoan tattoos you get on your body. I don't care how long you grow your hair. I don't care how fat you make your ass. I don't care how much you look like Umaga or this person or this person. I think after a while, I think some people just look like a generic person trying to be, like a member of their family, and the genetics are just not there. I'm not trying to disrespect him, but I look at him, and to me, it almost looks like a Samoan version. If you look at his face closely, he looks like a Samoan version of fucking Cruz Montana. Like, you grow your hair a little bit longer. You have a style that's very, very reminiscent of your family. You get the fucking tribal tattoos and everything like that. You put the necklace on. And at the end of the day, he looks like, like he could have been any Spanish indie wrestler. It just changed a bunch of things about him. I just don't look at that and say, yeah, I could see that on the main roster. I could see it. That's why I'm a little reserved about Zilla Fatu. Zilla Fatu can work, and Zilla Fatu can be molded a little bit more. But when you see morons like that guy Fade on X that says, Umaga's 0-4 in championship matches, and it's time that Zilla Fatu finish Umaga's story. You'll get 2,000 retards that are like, oh, I could see that. Oh, what a beautiful thing for Umaga. Oh, he finally gets his flowers. And I'm like, I don't see Zilla Fatu at this point becoming WWE World Champion. Not now, not 2 years now, not 5 years from now. Unless something dramatically changes. Like, you don't look at him like, yeah, that's future world champion. You look at Oba Femi like, yeah, that's a future world champion. Look at Bron Breakker, that's a badass motherfucker. That's a future world champion. You look at some people and you just say, yep, I see it. There's some people I look at it, I'm like, I don't see it. So props to Lance Anoa'i to realize that maybe I need to go in a different direction to raise food for my family, pay the bills. I'm not saying that he would have failed. I'm not saying that at all. But I think after 17 years and not even being able to cut it in NXT, I think that was a wake-up call like, hey, you know, local promotions made me feel bigger than maybe what my worth truly is. And when you see so many members of the bloodline, you know, I'm going to say something that's going to be a little messed up, but I think people will understand. Forgive me what I'm about to say. I didn't plan this. I don't think I've ever said this in my life, but this just came to mind. It may sound ridiculous. The Von Erich family. Family filled with awful tragedies. You know, I praise the surviving members of the Von Erich family. I think of Kevin. You see what I still remember the current affair special on the Von Erich family. You know, I have no brothers. You know, it's just still, and I mean this sincerely, it's powerful. You know, God bless, you know, I think Marshall Von Erich, Ross, whatever their names are, they're coming up. So the curse is done. But as a young fan growing up and watching the Von Erichs from afar, there was some members of the Von Erich family, if you remember the little kid especially, and it got to a point where you just felt like fucking Fritz. Like, if you were a Von Erich, you're fucking wrestling. Like, you would have Von Erichs, and there were Von Erichs that you're saying to yourself, that person has no business being on my fucking TV screen. Like Von Erich, Von Erich, Von Erich. I'm surrounded by Von Erichs. Von Erich, Von Erich. There were some members of the Von Erich family that you know should not have been in wrestling. They didn't have the look. They didn't have the skill. Whether they weren't ready or not is not even a question, but they were just being thrown out there simply because they were a Von Erich. It's kind of like this bloodline stuff now. You know, just because you are a member of the Anoa'i family, or if you're got some connection to the dynasty, that, you know, there should be some consideration for you. And I think that's ridiculous, because you look at other families in wrestling in the past who did not cut it. Whether the last name is a Guerrero or this or that, or the fucking, you know, like, doesn't matter. Just because you have bloodline lineage doesn't mean default that you should get an opportunity. And there's too many fools out there that push that. And I wonder if Lance Anoa'i the last couple of years kind of got that vibe, like, oh my God, look at this whole bloodline stuff. Look at my career. I've done pretty damn good. I'm talented. Guy could work. I've seen his shit. Guy could work. But when I think of the WWE universe and the bigger picture there, like, you put him on the main roster, you see what they did with Talatonga. Instead of him looking like a 7-foot weird version of the 1-2-3 kid meets a Samoan, let's just throw a crazy amount of face paint on his head. You know, it's like, yeah, you could cover him up a little bit, but to me, unfortunately, Lance Anoa'i just looked like a normal guy that had bloodline lineage that wasn't going to break through as a bloodline member. Just my honest opinion. And that's it. And yeah, they both had Lance. Yeah, somebody pointed out we had Lance Von Erich and Lance Anoa'i. But listen, props to him. Guy had a great career. Doesn't mean he can't have a match once in a while. And that must be a very, very tough decision to make after 17 years in wrestling, man. So that's it. I think that's it for me as well. We're at 1:30 in the morning, man. We're almost at 3 hours. I got to get my ass a little bit of sleep. So, this Wednesday, for Wednesday Night Dynamite, we obviously, like I said, we'll do predictions for Ring of Honor and TNA. Weekend ratings. We'll get into a few other stories, TNA related. We'll talk about, somebody that they're looking to sign, get into some of those trademark stuff. We'll, comment a little bit about NXT and AEW. Any additional matches that are added to All In and some other news going on. But, hey, I think we had a nice, fun show tonight. Raw was just a great show. And hopefully they could keep this trend going. Obviously it's going to be rinse and repeat. Be prepared. For the next 2 months, it's going to be rinse and repeat. Usos, Roman, Jacob, LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, maybe a little Royce Keys blended in, Jacob Fatu, LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, Usos, Roman Reigns. This is going to be rinse and repeat. That's really what it is. Basically, what we're getting now could be what we're going to get for the foreseeable future. Going to be teasing Oba and Bron. After Sunday night's main event, wherever that goes, it's going to still be teasing that. That doesn't go away. You think about the women's side of things. You got Becky, you got Stephanie, you got Liv. And that's pretty much it. You have Raquel in her own deal, and Raquel will be with Saul, and Raquel will be with, maybe another woman here. Roxanne Perez maybe wins the briefcase. You kind of see that's why I think Otis is goner. Tozawa is a goner. The Vision, Austin Theory is going to start having to fuck with somebody else at some point. You kind of feel like a month from now, a shitload of what we're seeing is going to be pretty much a shitload of what we're still seeing. So hopefully they can keep it fresh, man. But it kind of feels like we see pretty much the template that's going to lead to War Games. And, who else breaks through? You remember, we got Lola Vice that's about to make a splash. Question is, Raw, SmackDown. Most people think SmackDown because of Damian Priest. Lola Vice is going to make an impact. Tatum Paxley, will just be, fun. I'm just enjoying life, and I love my new best friends, and, let me put a smile on my face and have the little kids. That's pretty much what Tatum Paxley is going to do, and that's perfectly fine. She fits that role perfectly. She'll blend in just nicely. There's some other women I'm a little concerned about, which we've talked about, but you kind of feel like who's going to break through outside of this? Especially if Bayley does re-sign with WWE and she does make her return, then you got to make room for her. And then you think of all the other people that are not on TV. You got to start worrying a little bit about Rusev. You got to start thinking what's going on with Ethan Page. And, this big Kaz stuff is going to fizzle out very, very quickly. Who's going to be the next sacrificial lamb? Maybe Chad Gable? I don't know. But, you just kind of see, they're pretty much mapping up what the menu is going to be for the foreseeable future. So today was good. Let's see what happens a couple of weeks from now. So, but Saturday night's main event, man, I like it so far. You have Randy and Cody, Bron and Oba, and CM Punk, like I said, is being advertised. So CM Punk is likely going to face somebody. Then we may get, who knows, maybe Gunther and Finn Balor. This Sunday night's main event might end up being, something premium live event material. Not necessarily premium live event, but just a step underneath. And with no premium live event in September, this might be the go-to, outside of Triple Mania and NXT stuff. So, all right, enough of my talking. I smell like Black Zambuca right now. So I'm going to get this shit online. I'm going to get my ass to sleep. Hopefully, trust me, I've already did a bunch of wipes. I'm going to probably have to take a shower because I got drink all over me. So, My dogs will have a field day, though. I'll lay in the bed and they'll be licking me like an ice cream cone, but no, I don't want my dogs licking fucking alcohol. So much love to everybody. I thank you very much for spending a little bit of your Monday with me. If you're checking it out on the archive, I appreciate you as well. Keep supporting the website, wrestling-news.com, dontony.com. Keep downloading all the shows. The shows during the week, they're free, but it helps me pay the bills. And it keeps us in the stats, man. We're trying to build. We're trying to climb up. And, the only way to do that is with all of you. So any way you could help the cause with us, trust me, I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. So I thank you for that. And I hope you guys will check me out later this week. We got Wednesday Night Dynamite. We got Patreon on Thursday. Got the History Show on Saturday. Got the Sit Down on Sunday. And we're working on another show. Don't know if it's going to be Saturday morning or Friday night. Probably wouldn't be more than an hour or an hour and a half. Kind of like the Wednesday Night Dynamite format. But we're working on it. So we should have some progress in about a week or so. So just trying to figure out exactly what it would be and why and, see if it would fit in. So be well, everybody. Much love. I'll catch you on the next one.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.